To my American supporters, happy 4th of July, baby. To everyone else, hi, what's up? We're doing this a little early today. Here I am. Here I am. Oh my, it is hot. It's been hot here in Canada and Nova Scotia for days and days and days. And I don't think the heat is going away anytime soon. So here we are. Here we are. On super early today. I can't say it'll be the same tomorrow, but it's definitely today. I got to do some stuff tomorrow, but yeah, bored. I know some people that you would usually watch won't be watching tonight because they'll be off doing things, and I figure, well, if people have time during the day, I'll start early today. Start early today. You know, one thing I don't like is when I have look, I love communicating and helping or just talking to other game masters and players. Every so often I'll have these guys that will come like a game master come along my content, and the way they'll come at me won't be like some direct attack, but they'll be trying to in very passive aggressive ways belittle what I say, like from assumptions. They won't even know the whole story about how I game master, but they get that I have some credibility, and they'll try to belittle what I'm saying, and then try to paint it like, well, the way I run it is, better than this guy. They don't say that directly, but that's going to be the hint. What they don't get is I notice that right away, and I will take away all that from you. Nope. I don't care. You want to play deceitful games, your comment will go away. You want to keep playing deceitful games, you'll get blocked. So don't try to grow yourself off of my back. I warn people. I warn game masters. I like having interaction and talking and all of that, but don't ever try to grow yourself off of my back. Don't ever think you can fucking do that. I will notice it right away. Your comments will go away. You'll go away. I don't care how passive aggressive things are. If you're deceitful about it, you come here, you paint things a certain way. I don't like it. But again, regardless to the negatives, because that's happened recently, happy 4th of July to all my American supporters, people that I talk to that are Americans. I hope you're enjoying today. For everyone else, here I am early because a lot of people won't be around tonight. Usually I'd be streaming at night, but hey, here I am early in the day. Early in the day. For some people, that could be a benefit. I don't know. Some of my viewers are in different nations where it can be very late for them by the time I'm starting up the stream, but maybe today they can check things out. But here I am. Today, at one point, I'm covering Bunnies and Burrows. I don't want to talk too much about it because there's only so much to say about the game. I mean, I'll be real with you guys. I've been asked to cover this multiple times. I'm going to, for the sake of keeping my word. But it's a very simple game. It's a very extremely simple game, and it's intended to be that. So it's not like I'm trying to say it's simple-minded, but it's very simple. It's straightforward. The gameplay is straightforward. The mechanics are straightforward because it comes down to, again, it's old school is less about worrying about the mechanics making the game work for you, and it leans on your talent and your skill. So if you're someone who just lacks talent and skill, old school games can seem generic to you, but you've gotten lost. You don't understand why they're very basic, because what it's saying is, if you're a skillful game master, if you're creative in the way you present things and approach things and think about things, you'll make the game amazing, even if we give you the most simplistic dice rolling system there is. And and a lot of games want to give you a very straightforward way of what they're expecting, because again, if you're mediocre I just got to be real with you. If you're mediocre as a game master and you expect the book to run the game for you and be creative, old school games will seem generic to you in a bad way. If you're an extremely talented, creative person that takes the hit of the table, you'll right away get why the mechanics are simple and why the instructions of what the game is trying to get can be straightforward in many ways because it leans on your creativity. You make it amazing. The game isn't trying to handhold you and make the game more amazing. How creative are you? How well do you present the game? And so there's a lot of, I hate to say it, but especially guys that are very mediocre as game masters that come into this hobby and they look at a game, even like Bunnies and Burrows, and go, "Oh man, there's not much there." I'm like, yeah, not much if you're depending on the book to make the game for you because you have nothing to offer. So if you have no fucking talent, I get it. I get it. I get why you would look at a game like Bunnies and Burrows or many other games and go, ugh. And I'm covering Bunnies and Burrows, but I don't want people to misunderstand. This is not like a furries game. I want you to think of like animals in more the creative sense. Oh, let me see. Let me see. What would I say about it? What would I say? What's a good statement? What is a good statement? You're intelligent animals. That's first what you should know, right? Like it's not meant to be like, oh, you're dumb, you're stupid, or something like that. I think there's a movie called Water Deep Down. I think that's what it's called, or Water Ship Down. That's what I was looking for the name of that. Water Ship Down is a old movie, and it's about animals. And I would pretty much say the game is inspired by that movie. Like it's an influence, but it's a major influence, right? Major. So if you watch that, that's what they're trying to get. They're not trying to. Don't think of modern day nonsense. Don't relate that to Bunnies and Burrows. Go look at Watership Down, this old movie thing, and it's that's what inspires the game. People seeing that and said, "I want to do that. I want a game that does that, like allows me to live in that world, to play an animal, character in that world." That's Bunnies and Burrows. So I don't want to say too much because they're so. And there's a good amount on the bone, right? That I've gotten off it. But yeah, I could just give too much away. I don't want to give too much away before we get there. Now, I left recently. I left a Discord server. I won't say the name of the server, but when I go to Discord and join it, what I don't do is I don't go to servers and go into the open chat and mention names and drag people's names through the mud. And I think there's a civility expected when you are joining a server where, especially a gaming server, like I don't join Discord servers and just do anything. Like it's like I go on there knowing it doesn't matter if there's people on there that I agree with or don't agree with. Right? There's a civility rule. I think just it's not even a rule, but it's just like there's a meant to be civility thing. I never go in the open chat and bring people's names up and then drag people through the mud and think that's acceptable. I don't do it on my own servers. I wouldn't go and just so people know if they come onto a server, even there's people on my server that they disagree with or don't like them, there is a civility rule of you don't go dragging people's names through you don't use the server to do that. We're here to talk and communicate, and that civility is to make it that we can without people going to war, without people blowing up, so we can all share a server. Because in the gaming community, there's a lot of people that disagree with each other. It's not hard to find where people, in the gaming community and the tabletop role-playing game community, like there's just so many people that disagree. So you have to have this sort of common courtesy, like just a civil way about you. And open chat is one of the areas where I think it's more necessary than any of that. You don't just drag people's names through the mud. So I never go onto a server, and I don't do it on mine. I don't let people take somebody and drag them through the mud in the open chat. Right. And I don't let several people do it. I don't let one person. It's just, no, dude, like you shouldn't even have to have a rule for this. But it's like, look, there's a lot of people here that don't like each other, don't agree. But how do we make sure we get along without blowing up? There's people in here competing with the YouTube stuff. There's people that just harshly disagree. And we have a lot of harsh disagreements, but how do you keep things civil? You don't just let in the open chat people drag other people's names through the mud. That's pathetic and that's childish. It's like, look, if I want to go on the server with children, I'll do that. But I'm not here to go through therapy and babysit people. And if your open chat is showing that people need therapy and babysitters, look, and they're going to drag my name through the mud, I'm gone. I don't hate people. I don't hate people that run the servers. And it's fair how anybody runs the server. I just don't care. I don't care if people, even if I leave a server, it doesn't mean I want people to leave mine or to have a bad relationship with people. Like, even if I leave your server, we're still cool, right? You can stay where you're at. We can still talk. We're fine. But I'm just not going to stay somewhere where people are going to drag my name through the mud. That's been done for 7 years. So it's like 7 years. Yeah, that's over. 7 years of dragging my name through the mud all over the place, carelessly, through deceit and everything. Over. Right. I had a 6-hour server, or 6-hour stream last night. And at the end, man, I was a little peeved and probably misunderstood something at the end. Before I could talk to somebody, people decide they're going to drag my name through the mud on a Discord server. I'm like, oh, okay, that's all right. No, you don't get that privilege. 7 years of lies and attacks and constant attacks, weekly, monthly, 16 months in a row, and then 8 months in a row, and then fucking year in a row. No, that's 7 years of attacks and lies. Completely destroyed YouTube channels on me, got strikes on me, destroyed my audience. No, that's not, you don't get to casually do that anymore. I could, if that stuff didn't happen, I wouldn't be so picky with certain people. But I just am because, but it's like, oh, okay. At the end, I stand on what I said, but I think I misunderstood like at least one thing at the end there, and I would have been fine to have a talk with the guy later, realizing, right, because there's at least an access point. The guy was a little peeved at he's on the server that I'm on, right? And I was thinking of direct messaging him and saying, here's what happened, here's where I stand. I was going to direct message him. I go to the server. I don't even know people are talking about me. I go to it and I realize in the open chat they're dragging my name through the mud. I'm like, okay, all right, well that's how this thing's going on the server. It's like you clearly there's civility amongst everyone else, even if you disagree. It's direct disagreement and conversation, but you drag people's names through the mud here. Okay, well, I don't hate the person that runs the server, and we can keep peace. But I was like, no, I'm not staying here. No more opportunities for this. 7 years. Nope. 7 years of lies. I'm not going to give you another day. So you don't get another day. That goes away. 7 years of lies. No more. Okay. My patience for that shit is over. And so there you go. And then there's this guy the other day who he's commenting on my videos. And in his description, he has professional DM, which I think is stupid. I think the idea of seeing yourself as a professional game master is dumb as shit. We're game masters. Either you're decent at it or you suck at it. The idea that you're professional, dude, if a 9-year-old can think on your level and you can't think on mine, and I don't call myself a professional game master, what the fuck are you doing calling yourself a professional game master? I hate DMs that, like, there's a lot of nerds in this hobby that just do stupid things. Like, dude, first off, I don't like being used as content. If you use me as content, you're gone. I'll cut you off. If you sit there and try to build up your reputation off of my back, I'll notice it like a hawk, man. And I'll make you go away. I just don't like it. I don't like that dirty stuff. It's all dirty, petty shit. I hate petty shit. Look, I might be harsh and forward, but I'm not petty. I'm not scandalous. If I have something to say, I'll just say it. I'm honest when I don't say names or as to why, if I'm making a point, because it's not about attacking people or causing petty arguments or having a point skipped over. But you'll notice I don't go listen to other people's content and then try to repeat what they say in my content as if it's my wisdom. I don't I don't compete with other people, right? In that way, I'll hear some stupid things out there from a variety of people. So to if you think I'm just talking about you, like there's a lot of people out there that don't like D&D. So there's definitely a few guys that would probably think I'm talking about them if I clash back and say D&D. But I'm like, dude, sorry guys. Guess what? Not everyone's in the same circle. And a lot of people out there around the old school that you don't know say very similar things. So it's pretty consistent in the last few months that a lot of people have trashed D&D or even old school D&D. And I'm like, the game is never the problem. Old school games are never the problem. They're not generic in a bad way. What they are is they depend on your skill. And all you're doing is if you say old school D&D sucks or old school whatever game sucks, I'm like, what you're confessing to me right away is you're telling me you're not creative, you have no talent, you have no skill, you depend on the game to run you depend on the book to run the game for you. Like, I mean, if the only thing you can do is do different voices for NPCs, and that's your skill, your claim to fame as a game master, sit down, kiddo. Sit down. Right? Get some real talent before you start talking shit about old games. Like Fate sucks. It's you might as well just say you're confessing without realizing it. It's not Fate, it's you. All these old games are the same. Yeah, there's a similarity to them for what reason? Do you even know? Are you even intelligent enough to know? Because all of them are simplistic because they lean on the person's talent that is running the game. And all of them expect you to make changes, and none of them expect to be perfect. Like, yeah, you do this rule might not work so well, so you make a change. But if you lean back and, well, I'm depending on the book to run the game for me. What you're saying is you're not creative. You have no fucking talent for running games. That's what you're confessing. You don't realize it, right? And if you're in the new school area, like if you run 5e and think 5e is great, most likely, I hate to say it, I pick on some people that admit this. The book runs that game. That means you have to have no talent at all. Like you don't have to have any talent to run 5e. You could be the worst fucking guy to ever sit at the fucking front of the table and run the game if you run 5e. You could be the worst. You could be the worst in your group. You could be the guy with no talent at all for running games. I'm not picking, but 5e, 4e, and 3e all leaned into what AD&D Raw did with Module, which was how do we develop people really quickly to run the game for a surplus of customer players we could bring into the hobby? Because old school hobbyists, a talented game master could take a year to really get where they're going, work on their skill, play out their talent, improve. I mean, when you get that guy who's done it for a year, he's amazing. He's going to be an amazing game master. The problem is the rate in which you're producing amazing, talented game masters or getting their talent to the front could take a while. And if you're a company and you're trying to grow, the idea of producing game masters at that pace is going to kill what you're doing. Like imagine you bring out a new game. Well, we just got 20,000 new customers, new potential players. How many game masters do we have? 240. Okay, well, you're fucked. You don't have even close to the amount of PlayStations you need for the games, right? And that's why what the tournament style came out with AD&D 1E. It was mainly, in my opinion, I get it's a shared world thing. Gary definitely wanted to build something. The ideas of what he liked, but he's really doing is producing a method of creating quick, on the spot DMs, guys with no talent at all that could just take the book and have the book run the game. And so I get how guys that get used to the book running the game for them, that have no talent, will look back at a game that where many of them will be the same. They're all going to lean on you having talent, and you see them as generic. I totally get that. It makes sense to me why you would look back and say Fate sucks, because it's like, well, it's generic because you're depending on the book to run the game for you. I get it. That's why Bunnies and Burrows, if you look at it, it could be like, man, that game really sucks. Okay. Old D&D, that really sucks. Okay. Okay. Fair enough, dude. Like you're not going to admit that the reason you think it sucks is because you lack creativity and talent. Again, there's a lot of guys that get by on certain things where it's like it's players used to do this. I hate to say it, but I remember players that could do unique voices, and they want to be perceived as being great players until you see their decision making. Like the way they played the game would be awful. Yeah, that's really dumb. Like this guy's not bright at all. He's like actually not good at playing the game, but he does a unique voice. So the perception is, oh, he must be a good player, and he's intimidating outsiders that are looking in about playing. Like, man, do I got to do a voice? No, but this guy is. But really, a lot of players that did unique voices sucked. This was the same for game masters. I remember guys could do a lot of unique voices. What about your timing and understanding when to push the scene forward? You'd watch and you'd realize this guy just falls off a cliff. Like he's not good at timing, not good at pushing the game forward. Well, man, he could do a unique voice for an NPC. I'm like, so let me guess. We're going to call this guy who sucks at every other element of game mastering. We're going to call him good. We're going to think he's a good game master because, well, shit, he can do a different, unique voice. So there's a lot of guys in the hobby who I don't hate, but they'll lean on certain things as this is deception, and it is. It is deceitful because you're okay with playing into it. You're going to be perceived as being better than what you are. So that's why people value that type of stuff. And it's nice when you get the rare combo of somebody with talent that can do a voice, but anybody with real talent for the rest of the game will tell you right away. If they're really talented game masters, will tell you, yeah, doing unique voice is not that important. So every guy I know that can actually do a unique voice and run the game well will be the first guy to tell you, yeah, it's not a big issue if you do. And if I say, what about like changing tone? They'll agree with me right away. They're like, yeah, that works better for the imagination, probably. So they even acknowledge that tone change sometimes works better than doing a unique voice. Like, well, there's a guy who can actually do unique voices, one of the rare guys, and has talent, right? But there's not many of the combo. Like majority, 90% of the guys I know that do unique voices, either as players or game masters. And I'm just being honest, my experience in life, and I met a lot of guys. Their talent doesn't go beyond doing the voice. Just saying. And I hate when guys just give themselves away. I'm like, dude, I hate hearing so many guys talk about games in the hobby. I'm like, dude, stop, stop, stop. And I do enough content out here. I think I'm teaching people. Like, it's like, look, I've told you old school games are about performance. I mean, I am right. So I can keep telling you about this. And you can keep pretending that the game is failing, but I'm like, no, the generic part of the game is not as generic as you think. It only remains generic if you bring nothing to what you're doing. I mean, Traveler's going to suck if you're a very basic person. I mean, I know a lot of Traveler fans out there, but I'm like, well, hey, what if I get you a guy who can barely think? They'll agree right away. The game's going to suck. Doesn't matter who it is. If you're basic and think, it's going to suck. So all games, potentially old school games, can be good, but they're all very generic. That's why when I cover some of them, I try not to be generic in explanations, but some of them will be similar in certain ways because just saying we stay basic to stay out of the talented person's way. We don't want to put so many rules on talented people that they're tripping over the gimmicks. Cyberpunk can be somewhat guilty of that with their vague explanation for how they say to put attention on characters in say 70% of the scenes, but it's really just it's a poor explanation of spotlighting. Now, once you understand spotlighting, Cyberpunk can become a lot easier, but And there's a lot of guys that run old school games without understanding the intent of design either. Like a lot of guys. Like I don't know how many old school games where I know what the designer intends and I'll watch a guy run it and I'm like, okay, he doesn't know. He clearly doesn't know. Clearly doesn't understand that. So I get it. And it's like if you don't do what the designer intends, some games are not as, say, generalized as D&D. So some games are very straightforward for what they are. And there's this very specific feel, and designers will intently know that if you don't do specific things they're saying, you're not going to get the experience that they are telling you that you should be getting. So it's like, are you doing the 70% thing where you do all the attention on the different characters? No. Well, the designer understands that he's developed an experience that if you leave this part out, we start going generic. We start going back to Traveler. What about this part over here he expects? Are you doing that? No. So you're running Traveler with a cyberpunk setting? Yeah. Okay, I mean, and let me guess, you're going to call the game generic. Well, it felt generic. But you're not doing what the designer intends you to do. No wonder you think it's generic. Oh man, look, I'm not a big fan of certain games. Like it's not that I hate them. It's just I understand like certain games are more appealing to me. Like I personally have nothing against Fate. And Fate, you can make that amazing. But again, Fate leans on your talent as a game master. It just says, look, it's going to get out of the way. It's up to you. Do you have talent or not? And if the game is generic, most likely it's not because Fate sucks. In 99% of cases, I guarantee it's because you suck. That's on you, dude. So just be more honest when you're talking about old school games. Old school games just lean on performance. 5e doesn't. 5e runs the game for you and expects you to have no talent at all. It's so it can create PlayStations really quickly for the surplus of players it brings in. That's all it is. Remember, it's a role-playing game, so part of the role-playing game aspect was not to turn it into a generic board game. So that means, because it's honest about what it is, there is a bit of an expectation on skill with the person running it. Not just on performance for how you perform as an NPC, but performance on how you time things, how you introduce things, right? It's all about the element of understanding, learning, and just like players that are learning about the game as they're tripping up, say they run to the gelatinous cube, so they got to be careful when they walk around corners. They run into a monster that jumps from the ceiling down and attack them. They got to learn to be better players. Old games expect for you to learn through time, gain wisdom of how you run it, how you time it, how you understand players. And there's a real expectation of this, and it builds up your skill. These are hobbyists. So it becomes talent-based. Talent-based, meaning it really demands performance. It's not saying you got to be better than the next guy, but the better you get at what you're doing, the better the experience gets for you, and the better players get at playing the game. The more they can get out of the game, right, in the long run with characters. The idea is not just to sit down and play a game where the book tells you what to do, you do it. Oh, did you guys do okay? Yeah, we picked A, B, or C option from our character sheet. The game master did everything it says in the book. It's at that point, go play the MMO, dude. You're better off. That's my opinion. I don't hate new school people, but that's what you're doing a lot of times. Think about it. It's a mind game. That's what we call these games. So you're a player. You're playing a 5e session? I ran 5e, so I know this. I'm like, dude, you're picking A, B, or C, right? Yeah. How much thinking are you putting into what you're doing? Well, I roll the dice for social interaction. I roll the dice for perception. I then pick A, B, or C during combat. Okay. And well, the book doesn't give me any freedom, and you guys don't want me to. So the book says to do this, do this, do this, do this. And I said, it's lucky I have some talent from old school that I can spice some things here. But I would not learn this from running. Like I would not improve in these areas through running 5e. The only reason I'm going to spice this up here, here, and here is because I'm old school. And I had to learn to get better in these areas through old school. And there's nothing here in the 5e experience that pressures me to get better at this stuff. So, and I'm not trying to ditch on people. I just think it's. I don't care about how you play the game, but it's another thing is people say this. It shouldn't matter how other people play the game. All right, what do you think of old school? It sucks and it's generic. And people play D&D because they're simple. Well, I thought you had no issue with how people play the game. See, I get a kick out of people want to. There's a lot of people in the hobby that want to tell you what they think about how other people play the game, even if it's not direct. But then they'll actually go on to you. You shouldn't go on about how other people play the game, but you did. Like everybody's a hypocrite here. At least I'm honest. I don't say don't go on about how other people play the game. I think we could just have an honest dialogue. And I don't care how you paint what I say. If I tell you what I think and I tell you what I think is true, you're not going to control me or how I speak by labeling my words. I'm going to label what you say and then degrade it through that label. Oh wait, dude, let me examine what you're saying. You're saying don't criticize how other people play the game? Yeah. Well then what about this? What about what you said here? That's all this stuff is you criticizing how other people play the game. So what the rule is, you hypocrites out there, you can criticize how other people play the game, but then you can preach to people not to do the same thing. So hypocritical, so bullshit. Absolute bullshit. It's almost 100% of guys I hear say, don't criticize how other people play the game. They fucking turn around. I've seen them on the same stream or just before the stream or even on the same stream. Don't criticize how other people play the game. 30 minutes later, they're criticizing how people play the game. I'm like, dude, you didn't even make it 30 minutes. You preach, and it's even worse is when they're righteous. They'll get on all righteous. Fucking righteous as shit. And then these two-faced fucking cunts, about 30 minutes later, we go, well, yeah. I'm like, all right, you just had a righteous speech at the start, right? Yeah. So 30 minutes later, why the fuck are you doing it? And doesn't that take away your credibility? Because how many times, so many times, I've seen guys do complete videos. We shouldn't, go on about how other people play the game. They go on stream that night. A quarter of what they say is attacking how other people play the game. Here's what I would say to them. The part where they're actually saying what they think and criticizing, even if it doesn't gain them a big audience, I think they have the right to do that. What they don't have the right to fucking do, as far as I'm concerned, is be fucking two-faced. Stop telling me I can't do what you're doing. And stop labeling what I'm doing. If I speak the truth, it's just the truth. We have dialogue by speaking the truth. That's all we do here. We speak the truth. It should lead to healthier conversation, understanding. It goes from harsh language to softening. You improve the more you openly talk about things. But the more you try to squash conversation, the more you maintain harshness, you never clean it up, and things never improve. Debate should be allowed because the early debates will be messy. But what happens? The more you allow debates and real debates without trying to control how people speak, boom. I've even heard some of these guys go on streams where, well, if you say it this way, I'm going to paint what you said this way, and then you should be kicked out of the hobby and not allowed to speak. I've heard old school guys that will say they believe in freedom of speech and then talk about, oh, you say it, they'll paint what you say in a certain way. You speak in absolute, even if you're not. Even if there's nuance in what you're saying, they're going to say you speak in absolute and you shouldn't be allowed to speak. Wait, do you believe in freedom of speech? Yeah. Well, then why are you trying to cut people out of the dialogue for having a different opinion than you? You can't believe in both, dude. Either you believe in freedom to say what people should be able to say, or you don't. And there's so many of the old school guys around here and guys around the old school that will say, yeah, we believe in freedom of speech. And then like 20 minutes later, this person should be banned out of the conversation. That's not how that works, dude. That's a censor. That's woke censorship right there. So it's not how it works, dude. You can't speak O to your mouth and then O to your ass in a span of 30 minutes. At least I don't sit here and pretend say, oh, you can't down on how other people play the game. I don't sit there and say you can attack them, but you can be honest. That's it. And facts don't care about your feelings. I'm going to tell you what I honestly think. Look, dude, if it hurts your feelings at first, I'm sorry. And I think you have the right to say what you want to say. And all that open dialogue and open debate improves over time. And what it does, it improves the hobby, because designers and people making games for us and how this hobby functions, the standard goes up. Designers hear more about what people really want or think. Games get better. And you go to any area, like say video games. Not so much recently, but go back in the past, like 10 years. Open debate, open dialogue, the games got better. Things started improving. Now there's a lot of shit people are unhappy with, but there's a lot of games that really got made because of open dialogue. You can't shut down conversation here. And we've had conversations so controlled and so squashed here for 50 years, but they'll be like, oh, here, guys, well, you're talking about that again. Like, are we done talking about this stuff? It'll say it the next year. And the next year, the thing will come up. And I'm like, well, there's a reason it's coming up, dude. Why does the same thing keep coming up? Because for 50 years, it comes up, people go to have the debates, and they get squashed. So nobody figures anything out. So imagine this for 50 years. And this is how controlled the dialogue is in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. You bring up a debate, like an issue that you have, you disagreement. Well, a bunch of people around will squash the conversation. So you can't have the debate properly. You can't have the conversation properly. And it gets squashed. People squash it the next year because nobody figured anything out and people still have an issue. That's where I tell people, why does this keep coming up the next year? It's not because we have nothing to talk about. It is because these issues are never sorted out. So it's like there's a variety of people that have an issue with this. Okay, they go talk about it. Squash, can't talk, can't debate. Let's squash it all. Next year, they still have an issue with it, and there's been no progression on the conversation. So they bring it up again, attempt to talk about it again, attempt to debate, squash. Next year, people still have an issue, haven't evolved the conversation or debate. It's going to repeatedly happen for this reason all the time. And until people just stop trying to censor everyone or tell people they can't say something or have weak excuses of why, like, well, it's dismissal of what people feel. Like people wouldn't keep bringing this up if they didn't have an issue with it. So if you dismiss it and you're successful at dismissing it, okay, you dismissed it this year or maybe even for a few months. And a few months or the next year, it's going to come up again. People still have an issue with it. You want to dismiss it again? Okay, it'll be up next year. And until you allow that thing to flow and have the honest conversation, you got to let it happen. People just have to let it happen. If not, it's going to keep happening. We get into the tabletop role-playing game hobby where we're stuck in arguments or debates or even opinions for fucking 30 years. And I'm like, have we progressed on this topic at all? No. Why? And then you realize, like, say the forums before YouTube and Facebook, remember the forums. If you tried to have a proper debate and say really what you think, banned. So it's like an iron fist control over the conversation and dialogue. If you get on here and say what you think, certain communities won't let you take part in the conversation. They'll kick you out. They won't support you. They won't bring you into the circle. So then they become echo chambers. So the echo chamber is going to make sure the conversation never happens. Okay. I don't get it. I think it's stupid. That's why I say stop telling people. It's like I'm not a. If I say I don't like the way a game is played, I'm not coming to your table and attacking you as an individual. Say your name is Tim. Hey Tim, I don't hate you. I don't hate you as a game master. I don't hate your table, and I don't hate your players, Tim. You're playing a certain way. Well, I'm not going to direct that at you, but you play like many other people. I personally have a problem with that type of gaming. So I want to say what I think aloud. Tim, it's just an opinion. I'm going to say it out loud. Maybe you can consider what I'm saying. Maybe you want to say something back to it. Don't get all emotional. We're only talking about games. And Tim, I'm not coming to your table and telling you that you can't do it. So, Tim, you get to keep doing what you're doing. Your players get to keep doing what you're doing. And you can choose to ignore me. You can choose to consider what I'm saying, but there's no reason to say I can't say it. There's no reason to try to cut the conversation off. We're just here. It's like video games. If I come out and say I don't like a certain video game or why, there's nobody in the video game world that says you can't say that. It's actually considered just healthy dialogue. It's just like people saying what they think. So if I come out and say it, sorry, Tim, I'm not going to your table. I'm not attacking you, Tim. I'm not attacking your players. I'm just saying what I think. And we're in the topic of the hobby. It's, if anything, people on the YouTubes or anything like this can help further conversations. And these conversations are healthy to have. A lot of people will not like a certain thing and they want to talk about it. And maybe there could be discovery through the conversation. Hey, Tim, I could tell you I don't like something. Why don't you come along and tell me what you do? Let's have the conversation. Well, that's cool. You learn from what I got to say. I learned from what you got to say. Right? Why do you think it's valuable? Let's have the conversation. Why do you think it's valuable? Can you verbalize it? Let's talk about that. And if you don't want to, maybe somebody does. But guess what, Tim? I'm still not going to come to your table. I'm still not going to tell you what to do. I'm still not going to attack your players. Now, if you come along to my video and you don't agree with what I say, that's okay. But the idea that you can become a censorship monster and cut and convince people that I shouldn't be able to even speak what I like, speak out loud. Well, then you got a problem. You got a control problem, dude. You can ignore my content. You can ignore what I got to say, and you can ignore anybody who says anything you don't want to hear. That's your right, dude. If you believe in freedom of speech, Tim? Yeah. Well, then, do you think it's good to then say somebody who disagrees with you shouldn't be able to have the right to say what they say? No. But if you label it and then say that's bad to even say out loud, is it the same thing as you trying? You get what I'm saying? Once you label what people are saying, and then you say based on label, like, well, you're attacking people. Well, am I attacking people or just criticizing a way of playing the game? See, it's how you label it. It's how you're going to view what people are saying. And then you can try to control the conversation, shut people up, censor them. Or go on a stream, tell people you believe in free speech, and then say, that person should be cut out of the conversation completely. Should they? Do you believe in free speech? Yeah. Well, then no. You can't say both, dude. It has to be one or the other. Well, you're speaking in absolutes. Am I? That's what you're assuming. Am I really? Is that what's happening, or are you just assuming that's what's happening? Oh, you're just we both know you're assuming. And the other thing is when I hear people out there trying to control the conversation, I'm like, dude, you're one of the most simple-minded people around. Shouldn't you be a little bit more? Should at least we try to have people a little bit more intelligent? So that's where I see so much conflict from the attempt to control dialogue that people end up fighting and hating each other. Like the more you try to control what people are saying, the more you're not accepting that people just have the right to say it. And that creates conflict and drama and hate and bitter feelings. If you think people just have the right to say what they think, it calms you down, man. You stop hating people over what they say. All right? So yes, we should be able to criticize. I think it's hypocritical because there's just so many people out there, and I don't get how people can just keep doing this, because almost 100% of people that say, again, don't criticize how other people play the game, will be the first people to criticize how other people play the game. I'm like, dude, almost every single one of you will say it and then do it, say it and then do it. Just stop. Stop it. It's boring. So at least no matter what, you won't get the two-faced bullshit from me. You won't come here where I say, oh, you shouldn't say what you think. I say what you think, because you're going to anyway. I'm going to. You're going to. So why live a lie? And why try to? And it's, to me, it's sometimes the two-facedness is this: people want to be credited as they think they'll paint it like this. Not criticizing how other people play the game makes me a decent, good person. You like me, right? Great character. And then they turn around and do it. But the thing is, they want the respect of the person who doesn't do it, because they think that's a respectable position. That's one of the biggest two-faced parts, is they speak righteous because they see themselves in this false image. I'm like, dude, you're two-faced and full of shit. You're not this person. You're trash. You really are. If that's how you paint it, decent is someone who doesn't criticize, and the person who does criticize is trash, you're trash. So stop your bullshit trying to get respect for something you're not even. You're not even that thing. If it's trash to criticize, well, based on your own standards, you're trash. Which I say you're not trash to criticize how other people play the game. We're going to have feelings. We're going to think these things. It's better to get it out of your system. Say what you think. Say it. Right? Because I want to know what I can't stand is when people say things, and for you to argue back against their harsh criticism. But say a game. Like, I hear some guys out there will criticize old school gaming, old school TTRPGs. Well, my counter is the best way to counter that is to describe how they play the game, to criticize how they play the game, and then to express why old school, the way you play the game, makes it actually good. So the only way to counter what they're saying is to first criticize how they played the game, and then explain how you would play old school gaming. Now imagine you want to make your arguments, but you want to live in a protective bubble like a bitch, right? So you want to control the dialogue. I want to be able to criticize, but I want to make it that you don't have the right to say something back about what I said, because I'm a fucking bitch out in public. I want to live in a protective bubble where I can talk out my fucking ass about old school games, and then I will label any attempt to debate that or disagree with me as, oh, that's wrong. You shouldn't do it. You should be kicked out of the conversation. What a fucking two-faced, spineless, cowardly fucking thing to do. You want to come out in public? You can't live in a bubble. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't let everybody take part in direct chat with me. I never believe that somebody should be kicked out of the conversation, though. Ever. I've never even ever floated that around. What I do is say, look, I might ban you from my comment section if I think you're full of shit and bring nothing here. Or if you're whatever deceit. Or I might not let you take part in chat because it's for supporters. I've never said I believe people shouldn't have the right to make videos or other public posts about me. And plenty of people do. And I don't go around and say they can't. I don't attack them for doing it. I don't go to their comment sections and say they shouldn't have the right to say something back for my public statements. And I think anything I say, people have the right to disagree with that in any way they damn well feel pleased and disagree. right? What do the guys do over at these other channels? They'll sit there and not just say that. First off, it's not just that they'll cut you off of their comment section. They think they should be able to make their arguments, and then you shouldn't even have the right to go on your own YouTube channel or to even other social media and make arguments that disagree with it. Like, that's how much they want your right to speak against what they're saying to go away, and they want to live in protective bubbles. Look, dude, if you're a public figure, you can't live in a protective bubble. You have the right to control your private space of dialogue. Like, if I don't want to directly interact with you, sorry, you're not going to take part in the comment section, especially if you don't bring anything but lies and deceit to the conversation. And there's a lot of guys on here that disagree with me. Their comments are up and they're pretty happy. Good 4th of July, rebel colonist. Yes, I was saying that to my American supporters already there, Philo. All happy 4th of July to all the peeps out there that are Americans. I hope they have a fucking great day. I hope nothing dramatic happens. It's all been a build up to today. You're just hoping, like, man, I just hope they have their fucking fireworks, have their party, and it's a happy 4th of July. That's what I hope. It's hot here. I figured I'd do this early in case there were some Americans that had time to watch this, because I know tonight a lot of guys are going to be fucking busy, right? I'm like, yeah, they're going to be busy. A lot of guys I know are going to be busy. So I'm like, let me fix that thing. Round it so we can see you a little better here on the open chat. Watching from the start. You go ahead. Go ahead. So yeah, I really believe in healthy open dialogue. And I believe that if you want to talk shit, I talk a lot of shit and people disagree with me. They have the right to go wherever they want and say whatever they want. I don't like when I talk and, like, some things will annoy me. Deceit. I don't think that's honest conversation. I didn't like last night when a guy jumped in. I had a 2-hour and some conversation with a guy in here. A guy jumps in and he hears maybe 10% about what was said, and then starts just jumping into the conversation, not knowing anything about what was said, not checking back, not informing himself, nothing. Like, dude, look, I'll say this. I think there's a standard to debating. I think you should know what the other person has said. I think there's good standard practice you should bring to your attempt to disagree with people, like an honest attempt to really understand their argument. Like, it's a lot of guys who argue with me, but here's what they do. They've done it over the years. I'll make a really good case for something in a video or even on a stream. And so come a Friday or some other stream, I'll see guys go on and they're going to mention something. It's only an argument I've made, but they're going to twist the argument. And it happens so often, I would get really annoyed, because what they do is, in the twisting of the argument, they take my strongest pieces for the case, the things that really solidly make the argument for me, and they exit all my strong pieces out, and then they replace every strong piece with a really weak assumption that they can tear down. So, and then they would do this. They would go and say on Friday stream, I'd hear like 2 or 3 people arguing against what I said, but not really what I said. Like a really false picture version of what I said. And they're like, here, let us tear down this sort of new version of his argument that we created, that we weakened on purpose. So our arguments will work against it. I'm like, yeah, because if you actually took my real case, what I really said on the video, solid word for word, and you try to argue with that, every fucking one of you on that Friday stream would fucking cave in and lose. Right? Like, it's just not going to work for you. And that happened to me so often, I get annoyed. So I used to always demand honest conversation. Like, if I mentioned something about miniatures and pure theater of the mind, stop being deceitful. Stop being two-faced on that Friday night. Don't take my best case, tear down the strongest pieces of it, fill in weak assumptions that you can tear down, and then pretend that you've won the argument. Because you haven't. You haven't really honestly confronted what I said. And that's been done for like 6-7 years now. Guys just, Steven says something really wise. By the end of the week, they twist up my argument and then make an argument against this sort of new, weakened version of it. And I'm like, but dude, that's not what I said. Like, that's not what I said at all. And I've never seen them take honestly what I would say. I never seen people in the old school take honestly what I say in a video and argue properly against what I say. So I'm like, dude, I made strong points not to piss you off, but just to say, like, hey, I think I have a case here. And, if you think you have a case, you're going to put your best foot forward. It's not just to win the argument. I think this is the honest truth. So I put my best foot forward. And I'm giving you my best case. The guys that would disagree with me didn't care about the truth. That was what I noticed over these 7 years with old school tabletop role-playing game YouTubers, many of them. They didn't care about the truth. They just cared about their ego and making it like the perception of winning the argument mattered more to them than any truth at all. I was like, okay, all right. Well, that really cuts down on this conversation because I made some great cases that are just going to be ignored. And I can't look at the old school community where they should be at least considering what I'm saying and have open, honest dialogue. It just would it would poison the entire fucking thing. So it disappoints me that I understand why people get caught up in things for decades here in the old school. There's either they want you to go away, they don't want you to be able to speak at all, or they'll take your actual case and twist it into something where it's not even what you said. Like, it's like, yeah, the outcome is what I'm arguing for, but I made a case for it, like a reasoned case that, if considered fully, should be a pretty strong thing to be considered. And I want you guys to consider that. I want healthy, open dialogue. No. Again, this is why people get bitter, because there's so much dishonesty in the conversation. So much, again, it's the whole, hey man, you shouldn't start drama by attacking how other people play the game. That's how they talk about it too. Like, it's attacking. Like, so if I tell you that I have criticism of this style of playing the game, that's attacking people. It's not, but that's how they label it. Because if they can call it attacking people, because people will identify with a certain way of playing the game, then you're a bad person. Like, all you're really doing is just, you have critical thoughts about a certain way of playing the game. And if those, and there's another way of dismissing what you have to say. Well, anybody can play how they want. Well, there's nothing being implied in what I say ever that people can't. So it's a false way of painting the picture. It's like I'm saying what I critically think. Well, people should be able to play the way they want. Yet nothing I said in there stops people from playing the way they want. Nothing. I mean, tell me, I said an opinion. Can Tim and his players go back to their table and play whatever way they want? Yeah. So am I making a law? No. So basically, your reaction is to falsely paint what I'm doing, which is just giving out criticism, my honest thoughts on something. You're painting that as me attempting to shut down how people do something. But when truly examined, nothing like that is happening. Tim is not being shut down. His players are not being shut down. They can go back to their table and play whatever way they want, no matter what I said. And even if you take what I say serious, no rule or law gets invented based on my words that prevents Tim and his players going back to the table and playing the way they want. So it's like, so even that, it's still not preventing them. So what am I doing? Am I attacking somebody? No. Am I telling people they can't play a certain way? No. So if you paint my honest opinion that way, what you're trying to do is going, okay, Stephen has an argument we can't really argue against. So what are you going to do? To say I'm attacking somebody is to say I'm a bad person. So if you can't argue with what I'm saying, you start degrading my character. It's a way to dismiss what I'm saying. Now, I'm just telling the truth, what I think. Well, you're a bad person. No, I'm not. I'm just telling the truth about what I think. Well, you're attacking someone. No, I'm not. But if you could say I'm attacking somebody, well, attacking someone could make me a bad person. I'm not doing that. But if you paint it that way, and then other people that are listening and believe it, now I'm a bad person. People don't want to hear the truth. They just don't want to hear the truth. And they've been doing this stuff for years. Oh, you're attacking someone. No, I'm not. Just saying what I think. You're trying to control how people play at their table. No, I'm not going to Tim's table and telling him anything. So, ain't happening. Tim does whatever he wants. The other thing I don't like is recently, just again, I think we should all get rid of these type of titles. And I think every game master out there should get rid of this. Because I think it's a disgrace to even paint yourself this way. This is a false ego boost. It's separate from what we were talking about there, but it's like a professional game master. Fuck off. Fuck off. Almost every guy that calls himself a professional game master, I can run circles around. And I don't call myself a professional game master. I say, yeah, I have a lot of experience. I've been doing this a long time, but I never sit there and try to falsify or build up my ego off of bullshit. Professional DM. Dude, you're mediocre. Like, I'm not a professional game master, and I can run circles around 99% of the guys that I see that say that about themselves. I say 99 because I'm assuming 100. I just never met a guy that I can't do that with. Like, it's like every so-called professional, I'm like, yeah, I'm better than you. Just saying, if we want to get down to standards here, I'm going to run circles around you, run circles around you, run circles around you. I don't call myself a professional, but none of you can keep up with me. You could pretend. You could paint a false picture, right? But you're not going to. Oh, man. I think we should laugh at people that call themselves professional game masters. I think we should. I think that should be a standard. And that's all really what you're doing when you're saying what you think. It's creating standards. There's nothing wrong with creating a standard. It improves the hobby. It improves the hobby for people coming in. Because imagine if more people are convinced that, hey, yeah, you want to know what? We should make sure our best guy in our group is going to try to run the game. Like we have a standard that if you're going to run the game, you should be running it pretty decently. What about playing the game? There should be a standard that you should be trying to get better at playing the game. It is the game, competition. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not hating on people. And so what? If you at least try to run the game better, you don't have to be the best, but the attempt, the pressure to improve, there's nothing wrong with that standard. There's nothing wrong with standard for pressure for players to improve. And if you're playing games in a really, really weird, bizarre way that seems to avoid challenges and really is a weak way, like a weak-minded way of approaching the game, there's no harm in you feeling some pressure, from the rest of the hobby. Like, hey, man, so you're avoiding that thing? Like, you can. There's no rule that says you can't. Hey, Tim, you can go back to your table with your players. You guys can avoid all this. But social pressure is actually a healthy thing. It improves standards. Like it expects better play. I'm sorry, that might mean some guys who have false egos can't pretend to be better than what they are. But I mean, how many people out there want a guy with no talent at all to be able to go sit in a high chair and get respect for having talent he doesn't have? Who here supports that outside of the guys that do it? Like, I'm serious. Who else in the hobby? Not out of the guys that do it, plenty of guys that do it, but outside of the guys that do it, how many of you out here are okay with people pretending they are better than what they are? Who here thinks that people that can't earn the respect should get it anyway? Dead serious. Who here thinks it's okay that people should be able to get respect they could not earn with their own talent? Like, am I really a bad guy for saying that's wrong? Like, am I really a terrible guy for saying, like, look, if we're going to respect somebody, shouldn't we we respect a guy for having talent? Shouldn't the guy at least have it? And how better off would the hobby be if guys who had the talent properly got respect? And how many people does that drive away? How many talented people want to sit up in a chair of being noticed for their talent, and next to them is a guy who couldn't tie their shoelace. And on the other side is another guy who couldn't tie their shoelace. How many guys that are really talented will want to stick around knowing that, in a way, their own talent is not really respected? It's a joke. And then imagine you're in a hobby where so many guys without talent take up the high seat that you start realizing guys with talent aren't getting the same respect. And in this hobby, that's common. That's common, where you'll meet a game master who's really, really talented. And you realize people don't respect him as much as they do other guys running the game that don't even have half his talent. And you start realizing that's common here. That guy sort of sucks, but everybody respects him. That guy is great, but nobody respects him. Like, it's not the same. And the reason the guy with talent isn't getting the same respect is he doesn't bullshit. Because when you got it, usually you don't bullshit, right? When you're actually somebody who's good at what you're doing, you actually depend on that to be noticed. You really do, because it makes you more honest. You're not fake. You're not a fake ego. People with real talent will not lie or deceive most of the time to get somewhere. They look at the audience and just go, like, if I show my talent off, people will notice it. Well, imagine you're in a hobby where the majority of people that get the top seat lie their way up there, to the point where the audience becomes so accustomed to the lie that even if you're more talented, but you don't lie to get to the high chair, you won't get the respect, even though you're clearly better than the guys all sitting up in a higher position than you. Nothing wrong with improving the standards, because you go to any other community and there is improved standards. There is. Like a lot of other communities, real talented people get the respect. And the tabletop role-playing game hobby, let's just be honest, it's been like this for decades. The most mediocre people around hold the highest positions in our communities. And I mean, most people, they just stop back, if they sit back and think about it, they'll be like, yeah, he's not wrong. I might not, you don't even have to like me. You can sit back and go, yeah, he's probably fucking right. I am. And this is not common in every other community you look at. So do I do some critical content? But I'm like, yeah, I know it can be like I mean, it's better than talking about World War II or the gas station run, or constantly talk about how the weather is. It's like hot today, but you don't hear me focused on it. I wish more people, though, DMs, when you come along here, like, I wish more people were more honest. One guy checked out a video and he says, my aim, from what he could tell in the video, was for you to be playing the game. You have to be, if I put social interaction in front of you, you have to be doing social interaction. Yet I'm very clear. Anyone who's a regular here will know how I run the game. I never say anybody has to do social interaction in any group. What do I say? When you're in social interaction or combat, first off, don't sabotage it and pay attention. And the more you pay attention, it will put you in the flow. Like the more you pay attention to the game. And in that flow, you may be inspired at times to react to what's being said to you. Doesn't mean I expect it, but that's what can happen. There's no expectation just because an NPC is talking to you that you need to talk back. Now, anybody who's watched even 2 or 3 of my videos, any even half regular here, knows that about me. Only someone who's two-faced and trying to like be a DM that comes along and trying to build himself up off of my back will sit there and listen to one video and go, oh, I'm going to sort of talk about that because he's going to paint it away that he knows that would sound bad. That's the worst thing. Any game master in this hobby knows to describe someone as a DM doing that, like having that expectation, it's unrealistic. So I first off know right away the DM going to describe it knows that that's bad. So that's a passive aggressive attack on me as a game master, because I know everybody knows it's bad to say that that's what I'm doing, even though I'm not. And then to paint it like he does the opposite. I don't expect that. Fuck. Okay, dude. Yeah, you just try to build yourself up off of my back, and you have professional DM in your write up. Yeah. Well, your fucking comment's gone, and you talk like that again, and you're fucking gone. I'll notice it right away. You're not going to use me. You're fucking mediocre. Just got to be honest with the guy who was doing that. You're fucking mediocre. You have mediocre fucking opinions about DMing. Sit down, kid. You don't have half of my experience. You don't understand half the fucking game the way I do. So you're not going to build yourself up off of my back, and you're not even you don't even have half the wisdom that I have about game mastering. So know your fucking role, know your place, and stay in it. And any fucking DM who comes along here trying to fakely, some mediocre piece of trash tries to build themselves up off of my back, I'm going to notice it right away, and you're going to fucking disappear. Play that deceitful game. I'll send you away. You're not a professional. You're not even halfway up the fucking ladder I'm up. You're still just at the peak of the molehill, right? When you start up towards the top of the mountain, I'm way up at the top of the mountain. I'll be there when you get there, if you get there. All right? So know your fucking place, and you stay in your fucking place. That's how that works. I don't like it when fucking mediocre fucking game masters come along that are fucking clearly mediocre shit, and then just try to like, I'm going to try to build up my reputation off of this. But no, you're not. You can fuck right off. Go play your two-faced deceitful game with other people. There's too many petty people in this hobby. Too many scandalous, two-faced, petty people. Same type of fuckers that will say, don't criticize how other people play the game, and then 30 minutes later, they're criticizing how people play the game. Like, just fuck off. So I don't hate people that do this. I'm just straightforward. And the person knows, I know that if the person hears it, they're going to know who I'm talking to. If you're a sub, you can say something in chat. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. And all these fucking decent people out here, if you're all fucking decent, when we're all, again, mixing up on Discord servers, it would be nice if people could be civil enough with each other that if they have an issue, you DM another person if you have an issue. If you're unhappy, there's ways. I mean, your status, there's quiet, respectable ways to make your point. I don't like the idea of people taking my name and dragging it through an open chat. When I'm on a server where most people do not do that as common practice as is. It's like you don't do it to each other, and some of you really have disagreements, but somehow it's okay to do it to me. No, that's not going to fly, dude. Right? I don't join the server and prop up a server or fucking take part with anyone who thinks that's okay. You don't do it each other. There's no rules. You don't need rules. It's called civility. It's called being a man. Right? I don't drag people's names open in my chats. Anyone who's on my Discord, even though there's not a lot of chat on my Discord because people mostly DM me. Mostly people are doing their own shit. It's not like a chat fest. I don't do that. It's not even something I expect from the guys. I tell them that all the time. So they know that there's no expectation to be part of the chat. So if you go to my Discord, guys are playing video games. They're being nerds. They'll DM me if they have an issue, right? They don't bother bringing shit up in chat. There's just not a lot of chat, and there's no expectation that there is. And I don't got like fucking 500 people on Discord, but I mean, I have two servers, probably with like 20 or 30 people on each, and they're there. They'll DM me if they have an issue, but they know one thing. I always tell them, no drama in the open chat, and that means everyone knows it's no drama. You don't drag people's names through the mud. That's just common courtesy. That's called being a fucking grown adult and being civil. Especially if I go to a bigger server where I don't do that. I realize there's a lot of people that don't agree with each other and things could blow up. So it's like, okay, we have courtesy here. People aren't just dragging each other's names through the mud. And it's okay to disagree with people directly in the open chat. If I say something and people disagree with me, that's completely fine. That's cool. Let's have that out. It's not, I mean, as long as you're not calling me a piece of shit, in a long process where you're You say if you use like a fucking curse word, like I don't fucking agree with that. Well, that's okay. That's you can use your strong language. Let's have that out. Next thing I know, I see my name come up by people, and there's 2 or 3 people fucking drag my name, put my links up. Like, all right, dude, no, no. Especially on the server where I know most of the guys that are going to drag my name have lied about me for 7 years straight. Have been the reason I lost YouTube channels. I get strikes from these guys lying about me and reporting me. Same guys dragging my name that have went in chats and talk shit about me, and go on fucking YouTube streams and talk shit about me. Lie, 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 lie consistently to the audience for 7 years. It's like, dude, if I had the courtesy, at least decency, to put some of that behind me and come onto a server where most of you fuckers are and be civil with you, after 7 years of making that I had lost 2 YouTube channels because of your lies and reports, and then had a complete audience turn on me because of constant influencers influencing, doing what they do for years. Yeah, man, I'm going to be a little sensitive if you start like going, oh, we've done it for 7 years. Let's do it for another few months. Well, no, dude, I'm not going to come on and support that. I'm going to leave that server right away. That pissed me off when that happened. That happened last night. It's like, just notice, drag my name. Okay, all right, fair enough. Even if I have disagreements with people, I just do not drag their name. I just don't do that. I think making the point without saying the name is more powerful. Because I think if you say names most of the time anyway, people turn that into petty drama and they miss the point of what you're saying. So I always think if I'm going to bother speaking up, it will be based on points. And points are way stronger when you don't mention someone's name, because right away, what they'll do is if you say it's a name, it's an attack, and the point you make goes away. So I'm like, I had an off script last night, which I thought was fucking healthy as fuck. I had a young guy, Miles, there. We talked about story stuff. And I had mentioned story stuff a whole bunch of times, but I wanted someone to push back on me. And I had not gotten a lot of pushback on it. I mean, pretty effectively, I've been pushing. He finally decides to, because he definitely had a position that people that would disagree with me would have. And he finally decides to take up that role. And I appreciate what he did. That was cool. So we went through it, man, for I think 2 hours. It was really healthy. But it was a way of actually confronting a lot of what people that would disagree with me would be saying. So it was good. I found that to be good. That was good open dialogue. And the reason I thought it was good open dialogue is because no matter how messy that conversation was, it's like, man, people have avoided this for fucking years. This conversation needed to happen. So that I thought was healthy. A little messy, but we got through it. I'm gonna prove the point too today with Bunnies and Burrows with old school gaming. If you're someone who's not creative and you looked at Bunnies and Burrows, the game falls apart. You would shit the bed with trying to run it. If you're a creative man, Bunnies and Burrows is an amazing game. But player expectation, they got to be there too. It's you got to be actually okay with playing the game for what it is. Just don't look at it as D&D. I don't want to say no more because it's so many. There's so few things to say about the game that is really strong that I don't want to take the strongest points I have to say about the game and just casually pitch them out now. We'll save that for when I cover the game. It's not big. Now, I did actually played a lot of second edition of the game, and that came out in the 80s. It came out the first edition comes out in the 70s and then 80s, and then I think Frog Games or whatever it was brought out a new edition of it. I've never checked it out, never read it. Know nothing about their new version of it at all. I have no idea. So if you know about the newer version of the game, I have no relation to the game. I've never read a word of text from their material. So if they changed it or changed setting or have a different view, I don't know. And the 80s version of it is pretty much just, it's less of a normal second edition of a game. It's more like taking just the first edition and somewhat upgrading it without the same changes. You can call it second edition, but I'd almost call it just I'll use the word revived, like bring it back, revived and revised. So cleaning up some of the text and some of the ideas. Um, yeah. But I think it's a fun game because it's an easy game to get into. And if you understand the game and you have a talented game master, oh my. And then you got to be into what you're doing. You can't go into Bunnies and Burrows. I would say this. Don't go into the game expecting combat. It's not like you're bunnies running around with swords. You're not like the bunny fighter and the bunny thief. Put it that way. You're not the bunny fighter or bunny thief. It's not D&D with animals. Anyone who says it's like D&D with animals right away tells me they don't know what the game is. I'm like, okay, you don't know the game. It's not D&D with animals. It's a tabletop role-playing game, but it's not D&D with animals. There can be drama in it, but you got to go watch the Watership Down movie. And then also look at bunnies, like in the real world. Now, I won't say more, because if I keep saying more, I start giving some of the really core elements of the whole game away. Right? So it's like, no, I don't want to do that. But the Watership Down thing, I don't think I can get away. That's definitely a core influence. So that's a core thing. But I think most people that would know the game would know that was a big inspiration for the game. Just saying. Yeah, it's definitely different. It is the animal thing oracle. I mean, I even got to be careful with answering some of your, but you're right. It is then thinking it's D&D with animals. A lot of people think it's D&D with animals. There's a lot of people that mention this game to me. It's like, there's D&D with animals, man. I'm like, no. It's definitely old school tabletop role playing game in its simplicity, right? It is very simplistic, and the mechanics are very simple because it's based on Oracle. If you're an old school guy, you'll understand what I mean by this. Old school games weren't generic because they were boring. They were simple, so you could understand them really easy, and they get out of the way of your talent. So if you're really good at running a game, and you just need some rules, you need like a set of dice rules, like a dice mechanic, a really basic place to run your game. That's what a lot of these old school games would be. Very basic. Traveler is ironically very basic because it leans more on the talent of the person reacting, right? The person running the game, the way they make it feel with the way they present things, right? So it's really how well are good at you at presenting these ideas rather than these ideas being like somebody holding your hands as a game master saying, present them this way, man. Do it. No, it doesn't do that. It just says, look, are you any good at this? Well, we're going to get out of your way. We're not going to tell you how to do it in a certain way. We're just going to give you the basic elements you need, the basic gameplay stuff you don't have to break your brain trying to master. So a lot of old school games are not about game mastering the way you think. Like people like, what's game mastery? Because a lot of people will say game mastery is understand the rules. I'm like, old school wasn't really like that a lot of times. Old school was, when you say game mastery in the old school, it's not mastering the rules because the rules are easy. It's more about mastering timing. When do you move a scene on? Like, how do you react to what the players are saying? How do you improvise something in? Like, and you got to look at yourself as a game master like an opportunist. Opportunity means like, if you see something that can work, it's not about what you have planned. It's about what you can. I mean, I can make the guard be like this, or if you start presenting something some way, but it's coming across and you realize it's coming across better in a different way, you can actually run with it. But it's on you to see these things and run with them and improvise things and the way you present things. Like, how do I how do I present the world or this world that these animals are in a way that it's like a good way to present the setting is not just to give a normal generic basic setting like you might be in a small part of land, right? That's small for humans. But what you want to do is present it from the point of view of the animal. So everything is massive. Like the trees are massive. The bushes are big areas. So you start taking a small area and you start making it seem a lot bigger by just the way you present it by presenting it from the point of view of the animal instead of the point of view of a human, right? So it's are you good at presenting things that way? And then presentation. Do you spend a lot of time? Are you long-winded in your descriptions? Well, if people use their imagination and their imagination is really strong, we know this from book reading, like if you're reading a novel, when you get to the basic information that you're giving people, do you keep trying to paint something up? And if you do, are you getting in the way of the imagination the player is using to play the game? Because they'll paint something up in a creative way for themselves. So the more you try to poetically paint the scene up, the more they try to copy you, and the less they try to create just on their own. They start altering the way they might see it to try to match what you're trying to say. Right. So when you get basic, and you got to learn this as a game master, this is game mastery to me. It's not so much about the rules. It's about understanding it's learning that wisdom of understanding how players take things in. It's like I explained in one stream there. It's like you can make something, you could try to tell somebody something is scary or spooky. Try to add these poetic elements to make them seem more scary. Where you just say you're walking down the road, it's late at night, you have a lantern, there's a little bit of light around you, it's fucking black outside, the forest on either side of you is just black. Like you can't see into it. You can barely see the sky. You might see one star, and it's really dark, and you're walking down the road. You say that, just basic stuff. You're not going to say it's spooky. You're not going to add a bunch of things into it. A player's imagination, that will become creepy to them just from them imagining. And then all you got to do, a few moments later, okay, you guys hear a branch break in the forest. Oh, okay, we stop. And you realize you haven't had to say spooky, overkill, oversell. That's, to me, game mastery. Because the rules are very simple. It's just how good are you presenting. And then when do you move a scene along? Paying attention to your players. So you notice who's taking part or who's in a flow, right? Getting people to a flow, giving them something to pay attention to. Mastery is understanding pressures help move players along so they have a reason to get up and move. These elements are more important. I don't want to worry about the dice all the time. The dice mechanics should be pretty simple and straightforward for me to use. I don't want to, if I'm thinking about how the dice work, I'm not doing these other things that well. Like I just don't want to focus on, I want the dice to be simple. I want whatever rules I need, fair enough, but I don't need my handheld. I don't need the game to tell me how to time it. I need to learn from just interacting with the players how that works well. All right. And to me, game mastery is not about learning the rules. It's about learning how to run the game, run it through timing, through getting inside someone's head. That's real game mastery to me, right? Well, but that's a great way to make sure you're taking something small, you make it big, but it's actually big to the animal. So it does become a bigger setting. But you got to realize to do that, you got to present it that way. You got to care about presenting stuff that way. Right? As a game master, you got to get out of the zone of you don't see what you're doing as petty. And don't try to oversell at the same time. So you see the basics as just important. It's like explaining feel to the game. It's like, if you're around the trees and you're around your burrow, the burrow is actually important. That's going to be your home, your safety nets, stuff like that in the game. But it's like I explain, again, part of the feel. I go back to an explanation I gave in one of the videos and streams recently where the small things might not seem important if you blow it off. But if I say it's raining, well, that's not much, right? But if I say it's raining, and then I add that you feel rain hitting your skin, right? Like there's droplets going down your cheek, and then I tell you you can smell that wet smell from the ground, or if you're near the forest, you can smell that wet smell from the forest. I don't get to say more than that, but I've just planted seeds in your mind to think about these things, right? I'm just mentioning a very basic stuff, but I'm getting you to think about it. When I get you to think about it, that creates an atmosphere and a feel. Like you think about the rain going down your cheek. You think about the wet smell from the forest, and that starts making you like it's very minute stuff, but it is just simple statements to make you think about it and to bring you into the rain. Not just say it's raining, but to make you feel it, to put you in the atmosphere of it's raining around you. And I haven't had to be poetic. I haven't had to do much. And I don't want to be the game master who just says it's raining. I want to be the game master who knows to say it's raining and then add those minor elements on. They're minor as in they're easy to say, but they're deep. They're deep because I'm going to say things that are relatable to you, like, the rain hitting your skin and going down. We all know that, how that works. But I'm giving you something relatable because I want you to know it's raining, and I want you to think about it. So in a way, you're in the rain, right? Like it's like walking in from the rain. Okay, like your skin is damp. You got that damp feel on your skin from just coming in from the rain, right, from outside. Like it's small stuff like that, or it's so hot it's humid. Like it could be the humid heat, right? You sort of feel like that sticky feel as you're like walking in, like you've been out in the heat all this time, right? You can feel it. Anything to bring you into the atmosphere, minor things, but the minor things make a big issue. And again, I told one guy, I said, if I do this for you, these minor things, and then you go to a game where the game master over there does not do that for you, you'll notice the difference right away. Because I'm creating a feeling for you where I'm creating atmosphere when you walk into it. I'm telling you little minor things to make you think about it. And you feel an atmosphere. You feel like you're in the world. When you go over to that guy's game, he just says, it's hot outside. And that's it. That's all. There's no added seed into your mind to make you think about other things. He's not bringing you in. He's not creating atmosphere. If he says it's raining without adding the other elements, if he even bothers to say it's raining, like it's those minor things become a big issue, right? But you learn that through time. You learn that through understanding, and you understand how powerful the imagination is of the player. That's why it might seem minor at first, but if you understand the imagination of the player, it only takes minor triggers to get the imagination flowing. Now, a good movie director or a good storyteller, these are elements that we can use, will understand, like if they're writing a book, they understand to add little things like, the rain sweat. Like some will be too poetic, and if they're too poetic, it can kill your imagination. Some writers are way better at it. They don't go into the poetic stuff. They'll give it the details because they know your mind will just fill in the blanks. Like you will imagine everything. It's a seed. You'll notice good movies, a lot of them don't always explain things to you. They try not to, like they're going to measure it not be too confusing, but there's some things they clearly won't explain things to you because they know you'll fill the rest in. They don't got to, right? And they know how strong your imagination is. I just understand from people, my experience from considering reading books and then considering I'm using words just like the book would to the players. And if the book basics will trigger certain things, you realize you're going to trigger the same things in the game. And that's game mastery right there. Right? I don't want to have to worry about dice rolling while I'm performing. And so I want you to feel the character. I want you to feel the setting that you're in. The way if we're doing the Bunnies and Burrows games, I want to make sure the point of view is from the bunny to make the setting bigger because it is. And I want you to feel that. Right? I want all these elements to stick out very strongly to you. And I don't have to overkill, but I also got to make sure I'm not missing minor things. minor details to say out loud is important because it's all about giving you relatable details. Put the seed in your mind, your imagination takes over. I'm good. A lot of game masters nowadays, modern game masters, don't even know that stuff. I don't know how many 5e guys I watch where it's like, they don't do that at all. They don't even try. They don't even try. The concept is not even in their mind. And if a 5e DM hears me saying this right now, he's going to think it sounds cool. And it is. And the way I just explained it is cool. It is awesome. And as a player, you will want to experience what I just said. And everyone who hears what I just explained will be like, that's awesome. You know how many 5e DMs before I explain something like this to them do not think this or know this or have any clue about it? I mean, like 99%. Don't do anything I just said. I mean, they might just say you're walking down the forest, it's dark. Well, dude, I'm not going to be poetic, but I need to add the little details. Like, you get a little bit of light around you. You look to the forest on either side of you. The forest is black. And it's minor. It's not just me saying it's dark outside. But it's only takes a few minor extra add-on details to create relatable, understandable stuff that you will turn into, okay, that's weird. And then all I got to add is another element. A few moments later, you hear a branch break. Okay, we're stopping. Where'd that noise come from? This side or this side? Right away, players will be concerned because they're going to create the weird atmosphere. It's like, it's almost, imagine it's raining. I got the rain pouring down. Imagine I do that to you. And you're traveling through the forest, but you come upon a cabin. You guys get into the cabin. You're fucking soaked. You're fucking just trying to shake your shit off. You sit down for a minute. You start talking. And then something knocks up against the back wall of the cabin. Boom. Boom. Almost like someone like hitting it, like knock. Knock. Not instant boom, 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 but knock. Knock. What is it? That's all I say that's happening. You hear this knock. That's it. You can go inside and check it out what's going on if you want. If you want. See, it doesn't take much. Once you understand how powerful the imagination of the player is, you realize everything is just, once you understand manipulation, add into the imagination, because it's all you're doing with information, then you can become a powerful game master. That's game mastery. And that game mastery will carry over to just about every game you're running. It's like, okay, I'll go run this other game. I got to learn a few things, but these elements will all work over there as well. And they're actually more important than some of the other things. Like, actually more important for the experience and feel. And a lot of players don't even know that's what they want. But some feelings and intensity and living on the edge mean nothing. Just say you're in a game where story is important and you decide that, character death would, be bad for the story. That's what a lot of people say. Well, how scared are you then? So it's you need to be in a game where there's all kinds of little seeds going on. Like if you're in the game where there's a knock on the back of the wall, on the back of the cabin, and you can also die in that game. Like your character can die. I don't even have to say that part out loud. That's all part of the seed information that goes into your head. Like it's this game. If I go outside, I can die. If I go outside and that's the wrong creature, I'm dead. Like it might be the last time my character's alive. I cannot recreate that scene for you with that feel if you think you're safe. Instantly gone. So it's explaining to people that there's certain elements that all need to exist to create a certain experience in the game. And relatable stuff and real has to come along with real things. Like that's why there's all kinds of elements that are just so important to the game. And it's so that's to me that's important. There you go. There you go, Oracle. Bunnies and Burrows benefits from that approach. Now, if you approach a game without all that and you expect the book to run the game for you, which a lot of new school guys will, or guys that are just not that good at at game mastering, uh, they'll see Bunnies and Burrows as a generic, boring game. I'm like, man, I can make Bunnies and Burrows intense. Intense. Fun though, when there's relaxed time. But I can definitely spark that up. And I can make the feel of Bunnies and Burrows really cool. Right? But you need to know for Bunnies and Burrows to turn into that magic, you need to know everything I just told you. And you got to be good at that and performing and timing. When do you push for a scene to move on? You got to know timing. And you got to realize when it's good. Like, there's a difference between, it's like social interaction. So, say there's a group of 5 players, and 3 are really into the social interaction. You pay attention to all 5, and you notice 2 of them aren't talking much. But just notice their behavior. It's going to be important to you. Notice their, and if you can't see them, just say here's a little trick if you do it online. Ask the players that aren't speaking that much, hey guys, what are you thinking about this? If they tell you without being dry about it, it means even if they're quiet, they're still okay with it. But when 2 players, say out of 5, go quiet, now you don't want social interaction dragging. It means you don't get to stop it. You can let the 3 players that have taken part trying to get a merchant deal, trying to find out what's going on, important dialogue for an NPC for a job they're going to do. So you can let the dialogue happen, but you don't let it drag. When all 5 players are participating comfortably in social interaction, you can let it drag, but it won't feel like dragging because everybody is really getting into the whole thing. Everybody's finding their way of interacting with the scene. You let that go. You let that flow happen. You don't sit there and try to start cutting things off. You fucking let that flow go. If you notice 3 people are somewhat in the conversation, but 2 aren't, but 2 are okay, that means you don't get to end it really. There's no push to end it right away. There's no boredom there. But you want to notice that as quickly as you can, and then no longer let the social interaction drag, because that will make the other 2 players feel better. There's no dragging. They realize, oh, just got to get the trade done. Cool. Oh, we're finding out a job. Cool. And then we get the social interaction done, and you guys are on your way to do what you're going to do. Sorry about the alarms in the background. Timing. But yeah, it's so you got to know when. It's little things to notice, pay attention to, and care about. Right? And if you don't let things drag on in a very negative way with social interaction, usually you never get players that are going to be unhappy. When you notice 2 are not overly taking part in it, but social interaction has to happen. They can't control the game for themselves. Right? You can't make the game about combat for them. Sorry. It's like, dude, I'm not going to let it drag, but the other players are doing what they want to do in social interaction. These parts have to happen. The game can't just cater to one style, one method. We do all these things in the game. So there has to be, they have their time to talk to a merchant. They have their time to talk to an NPC. They have to. What I do is I just start taking drag time away. There's no drag. There's not too much in the casual department. Let's get it done, get it done, get it done, right? But then I'll move it along. Yeah, that's how that works. And what I do is try to make combat more interesting for everyone. Is first off, I make sure during combat there's potential role play going on. Like I paint the scene, I have monsters say shit to people. I don't just have it hit, miss. I do detailed on the attacks, and I try to make that very social interaction. And then I make sure there's a push for social interaction even after the fight, right? It should. That's old school Oracle. But see, this is where when I recently talked about it, but this is where AD&D 1E in tournament, the raw style, is the inspiration for third edition. They say it's second edition. I'm like, that's a lie. If you want to know what created third edition, fourth edition, and 5e, look at AD&D 1e, not the home game, but the tournament style at the game shop, tournament style raw with pure module. The book runs the game. The guy running the game doesn't have to have any talent or creativity, and the module tells him what to do. I'm with you. I'm a sandbox type of guy. I like to bring my own stuff in, react to what players are doing. Old school was so normal sandboxing that the idea of pre-made adventures only comes in later. So sandboxing, what you're describing is sandboxing mostly. Do your own stuff, probably react to the players, what they do. That's mostly sandbox. Make your own shit up. That's common. Traveler did it. OD&D and BECME does a lot of it before you really, like, you get some pre-made adventures with BECME later, but OD&D to BECME does sandboxing. And second edition actually starts going back away from raw, the rules as written gimmick, from tournament. But when you go to tournament style, which failed TSR, and they admit this, remember they gave up on tournament style. Tournament style was raw, rules as written, the book runs the game, and the module runs the game. The guy doing this, the shop owner doesn't have to know how to be a DM. He just has to run it by the book, run the module, right? A lot of guys that sucked at doing their own creative thing, guys that I would call pretending to be game masters, did that. And they took that home with them. They took this raw tournament style home with them. Though if you actually read AD&D 1E, there's two different types of games. There's raw module tournament. Then there's the at-home 1E normal game, which Gary and them did not explain too well, because at a certain point you'd read tournament is raw with module. Okay. And then you read the Dungeon Master Guide, where at one point Gary Gygax says the DM is king. I'm like, well, that's not about the tournament style. That's about the home game. Right? That's about the home game. Because the home game is do whatever you want as a DM. To make sure a tournament worked so players didn't feel cheated, you couldn't do what you wanted as a DM. You had to do it raw to make sure players were getting a consistent experience. Remember, consistency was big on tournament. Do it by the book so they get a consistent experience. Then if you want, you can go home with your friends and run the game how you want. That's the two styles, right? Again, we had a lot of people confused. They take the tournament style because they were fakes. That's my opinion, just saying an opinion. Guys that were no good at running the game that would pretend that they could be DMs by doing it raw. Because what happens if Gary says DM is king, right? That means DM has authority over the book. If you go to tournament, the book is king. And you should know this, Oracle. If you played OD&D and BECME, rule lawyers were actually cool people, right? Because whenever we hear about rule lawyers, you'll hear some old school guy, well, no, rule lawyers were cool. I'm like, I'm not disagreeing, but here's where we get confused. Rule lawyers for OD&D, in fact, were actually decent guys. They'd be guys with knowledge. And if there was if you incorrectly did something, they might point it out to you, like this says this in the book. But what would a BECME and OD&D rule lawyer said if you said back to them, yeah, but this is how I interpret it, so I'm going to write it this way? How would they react? Okay. No arguments. See, OD&D and BECME rule lawyers just gave you authority. So they might point it out to you, but if you say, hey, they'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure, all right. Or maybe we'll talk about it later. Okay, yeah. That would be it. What happens with this new raw rules as written tournament gimmick style? We get a new rule lawyer. Because that rule lawyer for the raw sees the book as authority. The book is king, not the DM. So the new AD&D 1E rule lawyer starts arguing. He says, this is in the book. And the guy says, well, I interpret it differently. That's not what it says in the book. Or I want to do it this way. Well, you should be doing it how it says in the book. That was the bad ruler. I mean, it's not like they didn't exist. We wouldn't talk about bad rulers if they didn't exist. Where did they come from? Well, if they're not there during OD&D and BECME, when do they show up? It's not second edition. Second edition goes back to pure DM choice authority. I've never met a second edition player that ever stepped out of fucking line. They all knew when second edition was so much better at communicating DM authority. It was better than OD&D and BECME. A second edition player, if I say, no, this is how I do it, that's it. Second edition players were all like, oh, yes, sir. Instantly. Right? Second edition players never got fucking confused about who fucking called the shots at the game. Right? So where does because it's not like the stereotype would exist without them existing. So if they don't exist with OD&D and BECME, and they don't exist with second edition, where does the bad rule lawyer come from? That's the raw module tournament rule lawyer. Right? And that's where they come from. Third edition does what? You run the game by the book. And third-party adventures start becoming a thing. Right? Where does that come from? Tournament. That's AD&D 1E tournament. What's 4E? By the book with pre-made adventures. What's that? AD&D 1E tournament with Raw. Like Raw and Adventure. 5E, same thing. By the book, pre-made adventures. Where does that come from? AD&D 1E Raw with module tournament play. So because I used to have to point this out because guys would be like, third edition comes from second edition. Second edition inspired WotC gaming. I'm like, no, it didn't. That's a lie. Tournament, AD&D 1E Raw with module is the entire WotC line of editions. Tournament style was dropped before second edition. Second edition is complete DM authority over the game and making changes. Third edition goes right back to rules as written. But that's only back to AD&D 1E tournament. That's not even the AD&D 1E at home. That's not BECME either, and that's not OD&D. OD&D guys did whatever they wanted. So any guy who says OD&D was rules as written, liar. BECME people did what they fucking wanted to do. Everyone knows that. Sandbox adventures, make up what you want, add what you want. Everybody knows that. OD&D and BECME were do what the fuck you want to do. AD&D 1E and only Raw tournament style becomes the thing where you should run it Raw. Well, it's not even the home game for AD&D 1E. 1E at home is still pitched as DM is king. DM has authority over the book. But it just gets confused. There's not a clear separation. Not a clear separation between the two. And so a lot of people confuse AD&D 1E as Raw with module. I'm like, no, that's just tournament Raw with module for consistency at the tournament. Because if Raw is the way you go, then book does really have the authority. Book really is king. That means Gary Gygax lies to you in the Dungeon Master Guide. Raw means the book is king. Because Raw has authority, and that's where you get your bad rule lawyer. So it's just such a contradiction because it's people trying to run agendas and lie. That's why they get confused, right? Well, you ran probably at a good time. Thaco was, I like the way second edition, when they insult that, I don't get it. It's just AD&D. I'm like, I think they made a smarter move. I don't like Battle Matrix, and I don't like the way they did Thaco. I like the way second edition did Thaco. Sounds like that's what you're talking about, is the essentials using Thaco the way second edition did. Yeah, I totally get that. Shadow Dark. I hear a lot of guys talk about liking Shadow Dark. I never really touch essentials, to be real with you, because I just do old school. I never touch Shadow Dark. I got nothing against Kelsey. Seems like she was proving a point that people wanted something other than AD. See, OSR, you got to think there's millions of old school people online. And we know this through their purchasing of other products outside of the OSR, for example. And so we know they're all active. I'm like, why don't they buy more from the OSR? Because Chelsea came in with a unique OSR take that was not AD&D 1E tournament. And she gets a surplus of sales. And people try to say at first, that's mostly 5e people. Until you look into it, you realize, no, that's like 90+% old school people. But that also tells you if she got a surplus of fucking sales, that means most of those old school people were not buying OSR clones. And that means the OSR, most of the clones, was failing to hit even 50% of the potential old school customers online. Why would that happen? Well, because most of the clones, very few are actually OD&D or back me, but there's some. There's like one second edition. And what do you mostly get with clones? AD&D 1E Raw tournament. And you can understand, most people walked away from AD&D. Like purchasing was really heavy on AD&D 1E, but what guys don't want to admit before second edition even came out, it's they bought, a lot of people bought the game, and then a lot of people stopped playing AD&D 1E because of the tournament style, the Raw style. Now, that was a good thing. That was sort of a good thing, because here's why. Many other old school games, if AD&D 1E did not fail, because it got purchased, it's I don't deny the purchasing. That was a real thing. But it was sort of a weird positive for the hobby that failed, because most people didn't play like 10 games, right? Even as much as some people did, it's a small minority. A lot of people would either get 1 or 2 games and that's it. That's what you're playing for a long time, right? That's most customers. So most would stick to D&D. Why did so many around the time between AD&D 1E and second edition, why was there so many purchases of Palladium games and other games? Well, because TSR lost probably 60 to 70% of its customer base, because they purchased AD&D 1 and did not like it and ran away. I remember when they put out AD&D 1E, Gary got a bunch of letters. I've talked about this a million times, but just guys complaining. But yeah, so I've talked about the history plenty of times, but it's good to know. It's good to drill on these things, because it's how the old school was so lively. It's how Palladium games got boosted up. World of Darkness games got boosted up, right? But there you go. That's the history. AD&D 1E tournament is 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition. And all you got to do is compare the way it's played. 2nd edition is not rules as written. It's DM authority with changes, constant changes every 2E guy will agree with me on this. And they do. It's 1E raw with tournament module gameplay. That's where you see 3rd edition, 4th edition, and 5th edition. So it sort of makes sense, because Raw, the tournament style, figured out how to get a bunch of people to run the game without having any skill. And if WotC was going to bring in a surplus of players, the thing it needed to produce really quickly were guys that can run the game. And so it got so used to having the books tell guys that had no talent for running the game how to run it so they wouldn't fuck up, that you'll notice there's hand-holding in 3rd edition. There's more extreme hand-holding of the DM in 4th edition. And in 5e, I mean, the DM could be a drooling moron and just barely... This is what the book says. This is what the book says. That's the most talent you have to have as a 5e guy. And I ran 5e last year. First WotC game I've ever tried to run in my life. And it makes you, like, you feel like you're turning your brain off. Like, I just never seen where a book just does all the decision making for me. Like, okay, the book says this. And then I had players at the end of the session go, man, that was pretty good. You did pretty good running it. I'm like, no, dude. No, I didn't. And don't bother giving me fake praise. I get after my players for that too. I said, if you ever praise me for running this way again, I'll stop running it for you. I'm like, dude, I'm doing what the book says. This has nothing to do with talent for me. Do not fucking put me up in the pedestal. Do that again, I'll stop running this. I ran a short campaign. I warned them. I hear another night where you fucking try to prop me up by basically me being a middleman between the book and you guys. Prop me up one more time, I quit. Like, why, Stephen? I said, like, I'm talented. I don't need fake praise. I can earn the throne through real talent. I don't need to bullshit people through reading what it says in the book to you to get you to fall asleep. Credit the book. If you want, I even said next session, if you feel like telling me I did a good job, don't walk over to the book, look at the book and go, you did a good job. Thank you. Because that's what you're happy with. You're not happy with me. You're happy with the book. So at the end of this, I even put the second session, I said, you guys probably had a little bit of fun tonight. What was a little bit of fun? Yeah. I put the book down. Here, go ahead, thank the book. They all start like smiling and smirking, like, okay, Steven, we get the point. I'm like, I hope you do. I said, don't ever fucking praise me for this shit. Don't ever fucking put me up on the pedestal for fake shit. I just read what's in the book. That's it. Any fucking moron could have done what I did tonight. I'm not impressed with myself. I'm not really happy. And if you want to praise anything, the book did the game for you. Praise the fucking book. Go take it home, put up a little fucking prayer area, get down and tell the book how great it made the session for you. I said, don't you insult me with this fucking ignorant shit again. I said, don't you ever fucking, I said, if I don't even accidentally tell me you've had a good night because of me. Period. It's the book. And they, of course, they got bored because they kept going by stuff. So I'm like, okay, you go by a room, perception check. Sure. That's what the game says to do here. It doesn't say for me to get you to search, even though I could try to force that. I said, if I did, would you guys be a little, because 3 of them were 5e players. One was sort of new, but 2 were veteran 5e players. So like, well, I'd rather roll the perception check. I'm like, see? I said, so if I ask you to look through the room, you don't even want to, do you? No. Okay, make your roll. Because I said I'm not going to try to make 5e what it's not. I'm trying to experience it the way most DMs are running it. And I watch most DMs run this game. Like, I was like, this is how they run it. So I want to know what they're going through. I don't want to pretend to run it like old school. I don't do that shit. I want to see what it is to run it like 5e. Perception check. Okay, you find this. We get the social areas. Talk your way through. Make your roll. You want to know he's going to let you go out. And that's exactly how I watch them play the game outside of me. And I mean consistent tables, like fucking, 19 out of 20 tables. That's how they played it. That's how the DMs ran it. So I was like, well, okay, this is what they do. You're not going to get to a flow like that. And then we get to the fighting. That would take the longest. At periods of time, I could notice they get into the flow during the combat as long as I get them to focus away from their phones. And only for short periods. And the expectation that I get the book right meant sometimes when I tried to put most notes down, but a lot of times I did have to look at the book. And that even without considering a pause, like it's like just to verify, because I mean stuff is so overwhelming. You can't just say yes to some things. If they're asking for too much, I'm like, I'm gonna check, I guess. And it's even worse than Rollmaster. Like Rollmaster, you could understand how to put the notes out front that you run into. It wasn't that simple with 5e. So 5e was more like look in the book, even if you had your notes out. I was like, Jesus, 5e is worse than Chartmaster. I could run Rollmaster smoother than I could run 5e most of the time. And Rollmaster is a challenge to get used to run it smoothly. So that's the way 5e was for me. And that's the way I watched it get ran by 19 out of 20 people on average. So it wasn't like I was running it in a way to piss people off or like to downgrade what 5e was. I was running it in the way that most DMs that I encountered over a lot of years, from watching them online to on Roll20 to in person en masse, this is exactly how they ran it. So I ran it exactly the way most run it. Right? It's you might be the exception out there. You might be like 1.5e DM. Well, I run it a little differently. Yeah, well, the other fucking 99 don't. So I'm glad you exist, but I'm going to run it like the 99 do. I want to see what it is to run 5e for most people. Now, there's times where I could do a little social interaction, make some parts more interesting, definitely through my own talents, add some atmosphere stuff. And I knew I was doing good on that, but it wasn't, to me, that's still not enough to get praise. It's like I know I'm bringing that to the game, but I'm even trying to limit how much I was doing there because I want to do it the way I see 5e people do it. 5e DMs. I'm like, do they bring a lot of this? No, they don't. So I put minimal amounts in there that's just out of habit because I want to, I'm having a little bit of fun, but trying to anyway. But I said, like, most 5 DMs don't do this. So 99 out of 100 don't do this. So I'm not going to bother doing this part. I'm just going to do it the way they do it. On purpose, too. I ran a short campaign, and I remember at the end of that, now they tried to talk me into running some more later, but I don't want to. I considered it for a second. But I remember at the end of that, I said to the players, they were like, Steven, how was it for you? I said, it is the worst experience I've ever had since I started DMing in 1991 in this hobby. Like, I've never had a worse experience running a game in my life than running that. And they couldn't believe it because the 5e guys liked their 5e gimmick. They couldn't believe how unhappy I was. I was like, I was a slave to you guys. I was a middleman, and most of what I did was meaningless and overwritten by the book. And if I stepped out of line, you guys, you 5e players, because you represent 99% of 5e players, you guys don't like the changes. You don't want the differences. And I even asked these two to play because I knew they represent most 5e players. I actually purposely asked these two to join the game because I'm like, when I watch 5e players, I know you two represent the vast majority of 5e players out there, your expectations. You're not, I don't want the 1% of creative players. Like, I purposely ran it like 99% of the, this is all an experiment I did. I ran it like 99% of DMs I seen doing it. And I grabbed 2 players I knew at a game place, or I said, I'm going to run 5e. Would you guys join? And they because I talked to them, I had been talking to a few players for months. I said, why us and not the guys over there that do it a little differently? I'm like, well, because I want to know what it's really like. And I know you two have the expectation that almost every other 5e player I encounter has. You don't want no changes. You want it exactly as it is. And even they had to acknowledge, like, yeah, that's what most of us want. I'm like, yeah, okay, good. I never got mad at them. The whole time. I never got mad. I never got mad about running the game the way it was. Though I got to say, I committed. I came through. But I suffered. Now, they had more fun because they were surprised that I was able to drag them into the sessions and get them off their cell phones more and playing a bit more. But still, it sucked. And it's the worst experience I've ever had running a tabletop role-playing game in my entire life. Nothing is worse than me running 5e. Like, I ran it exactly how 99% run it, with players that represent almost the vast majority. So to me, I had the ultimate 5e experience, what almost everybody else is experiencing, and it was the worst tabletop role-playing game experience I've ever had. And I just, when they asked me to do it again so many months later, I said, I think I'm having like old timers go on. They're like, what? I'm like, I said maybe when they first bugged me about it, but I said, then I had to think back about what I went through. I said, no, guys, I'm not doing it again. I'm just not. I'll never touch that game again. It's the worst experience I've ever had because I have talent. I have creativity. So I don't need a fake throne. I'm very confident. And I have fun doing the creative part because I'm actually good at doing it. So I was like, dude, the idea of having a fake throne, having a book do the job, and me pretending that I'm good at this, I don't need that. I think that's weak and pathetic. Other people need it. I don't. So it just bored the shit out of me. So I said, there, you got your 5e from me. At least I ran a short campaign. And I ran a longer campaign than most average. Like, the average of 6 sessions I did 20. I did 20 for them. So that was a lot of 5e for a short campaign. That's 20 sessions for those guys. And they even admit, they were like, yeah, we played 10 or 12 sessions. I was like, well, you got 20 out of me. And they even said at the end of that run, they said, we wish you'd run more. And that's when I had to tell them that last night at the end, they were like, I said, I'm glad you all had fun. I said, look, I don't want to be a party pooper, because they were all almost ready to celebrate with me, like at the end of the 20 sessions. I said, I don't want to celebrate, dude. They're like, why? I'm like, you're happy. I'm fucking miserable. I'm just happy this is over. My celebration is I don't got to do this ever again. That's my happiness with this. At the end of the 20 sessions, I was like, I never ever have to do this again for the rest of my life. I am fucking happy. You have no idea. I said that's the celebrating part for me. And I was able to hide my misery, because I'm good at that. I can cover up. I can put a face on. I can just run the game and not spoil the experience on you. I'm not childish, right? So I'm able to sit there and just run the game. They were like, man, you ran your 20 sessions. We get how unhappy you are, but we could not tell when you were like running the game. Like, dude, when I show up to work, I give 110%. I don't sit here like a whining bitch and put an unhappy face on and try to spoil your experience. I knew you guys were enjoying it, so I'm going to let you enjoy it the way you want to enjoy it. And I said, there's nothing wrong with the way you guys enjoyed it. That's fine by me. I don't care. You guys can enjoy it all you want. I said, I just don't want to go through it again. Never, ever, ever again. Never ask me to. Never put this in front of me again. Stay away from me with this game. I even got the one book I got for the update. I did get the 2024 player handbook. So I have that. I don't even know why I have it. Like, I have it here. It's like anytime I see the cover, I'm just like, fuck. It's just like a fucking nightmare. It just reminds me of those sessions. Makes me want to puke in my mouth. I swear to fuck. I'm sorry that I had such a terrible experience with that game, but I did. It's because I've never seen a game just strip away from me all my thinking and run the game for me. I was like, yeah, this is why I would never do Tournament Raw AD&D winning with modules. I would never do 3rd edition for this reason. I would never do 4th edition. I would never do 5e. It is the most hand-holding situation I've ever been through in my life. It was like, no, that's misery. It's complete misery. You can give me a D6 right now with no rule set. I swear I could run a whole session for you for 10 hours, 20 hours, and you'd have fun. And we could just make up shit randomly. Like, we can make up some random characters for you. Okay, you'll be like a warrior. Your name will be this. I'll give you a sword. Give me a D6. You don't have any rules, David. Yeah, I'll just make them up as we go. And I could run a 10, 20-hour session for you and have fun. And you'd have fun. With no rules, no book, no game. So that's me. And so I want the freedom to think, make decisions, and we go from there. I just don't want a book that controls everything I do. Bores the shit out of me. Okay. All right, guys. I think we're going to jump into it. Are you ready for some Bunnies and Burrows in a minute here? Not just hop right in, but I'll give people a moment. I'm going to tell people I'm doing this in a moment. I'm going to have one more of these. I should. This is a delay. I don't smoke while I'm running these. This is my Joe Rogan time. That's what I call my smoking time. My casual time is Joe Rogan time. And now I'm going to cover Bunnies and Burrows, the influences in birth, because we're going to get this done early today. Because it is the 4th of July, and I won't lie to you guys, there's some things I probably want to see tonight. So I did a 6-hour stream last night. Longest stream I've ever done, ever. 6 hours. I started early and went 6 hours, 6 straight hours. And I'm doing a so tonight I'm doing Bunnies and Burrows, but in case you guys, some people aren't into that, I'll tell you what I'm doing tomorrow night. So let's see, Bunnies and Burrows. Tonight is Bunnies and Burrows. Tomorrow is going to be The Legend of the Five Rings. Uh, July 8th for the members only, especially I get a couple of new members. I'm doing July 8th, Stargate SG-1 role-playing game. Thursday, I'm covering classic D&D Unearthed Arcana. On July 11th, on the next weekend, I'm doing Dragon Quest and SLA Industries. Now, I do a stream called Off Script every Tuesday. I'm not going to keep saying that because it's just off script. They're random. They're not like specific topics. But on July 16th, the next Thursday, every Thursday is classic D&D. I will be covering the Fiend Folio. On July 18th, that weekend, I'm going to be covering Teenagers from Outer Space and then Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. I do 2 member-only streams per month, only 2. And the next one is July 22nd. I'll be covering the game Exalted. That Thursday on Classic D&D stream, I'll be covering Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition Monsters. The last weekend, starting the 25th, I'll be covering Conspiracy X and then Ars Magica. And the last stream of July, because I got all the July streams up, that's all I have right now, is the module Tomb of Horrors for Classic D&D. Very happy with that. Okay. Pretty happy with that outcome. Whew. It is a hot day, so I'll give you the weather right now. It's like 29 degrees. It's like 3 less degrees than it was yesterday, but it's hot. It's hot, baby. It's hot. It's hot. It's terribly hot. Let's see. Checking out a few things before we jump into the stream or into the game. Having this too. I'm happy. Make sure everything is kosher. Give me a second, guys. I'm just sorting some things out right quick before we jump in. Good to do that. Bunnies and Burrows. Still not saying it out just to jump in, but I think people will be happy to hear about this because I think a lot of people have heard about it or assumed things. And I actually think it's a really interesting game. But it's not D&D, and I really want to clarify what it is, right? So people get it. For some people, this I don't know. Bunnies and Burrows won't be for everyone, but who it is for will enjoy it. And again, I've never seen the Frog game version of it, the new modern take on this game, and I don't care to. I like the old school, so I have no interest in checking out the new at all, not even slightly. I spent a lot of time with this game for a certain group of people that really, really liked it. I found players that really liked this. But you have to be into it, and then you have to be interested in what this game is. You like old school gaming, at least a lot of people didn't come to the game expecting tons of combat, which I was happy about. Like it's combat's always just one part of a role-playing game, right? So it's like you got to get people that don't want to play everything like a board game. Just you really do. You got to get people that enjoy the role-playing aspect. And there's so many other cool little things. There's other ways, other challenges, other things you can face in the game, right? I mean, you can be very creative with it, even if it would tell you to do certain things. There are certain things you could do. Uh, but again, I got to be so careful with telling you guys anything because I'm going to go into the meat of this, which is going to explain the whole thing. And if I start telling you too much now, it's ah ah ah. Okay, okay. Bunnies and Burrows, first and second edition. Now, I'm mostly going to be covering second edition after this part, but it's hard to tell you about the influences and birth of the game without explaining a bit about the first and second edition in combination, right? So, influences and birth of the game. Watership Down influence. The single greatest influence on Bunnies and Burrows was Watership Down by Richard Adams. The novel told the story of intelligent rabbits struggling to survive in a dangerous world. They weren't superheroes or fantasy warriors. They were ordinary rabbits relying on courage, intelligence, and cooperation. Bunnies and Burrows adopted this philosophy almost entirely, making it survival and clever thinking uh, being the main heart of the game. Real rabbits, not cartoon animals. Unlike many stories featuring talking animals, Bunnies and Burrows treated rabbits as real creatures living in nature. Players had to think like prey animals, finding food, avoiding predators, protecting the ward. We'll get to that. Recognizing danger and knowing when to flee were often more important. And knowing when to flee were often more important than standing and fighting. Foxes, hawks, badgers, dogs, and even humans were serious dangers rather than enemies waiting to be defeated. This created a very different style of role playing where caution and awareness were often the keys to survival. Again, you don't want to look at the other animals or even humans as encounters or fights. It's not. It is a pure game about survival. Like D&D is a game about survival, say, from levels 1 to 3 in old school D&D, you're really meant to avoid almost all combat. Just think about that idea never really leaving this game. Like you're the whole game is level 1 to 3. Avoid, avoid, avoid. Early Dungeons and Dragons. Although its setting was unique, the game still borrowed the basic concept of role playing from Dungeons and Dragons. Players controlled individual characters, formed adventuring groups, and improved through experience and overcame challenges together. The difference was that treasure hunting and dungeon crawling were replaced by exploration, survival, diplomacy, protecting the rabbit community. It demonstrated that new it demonstrated that the new hobby of role playing could support far more than heroic fantasy. And this is so early. Got to understand this comes out like just after D&D. And it's showing you that it's not all just about fighting, combat, being a hero. That's the point, right? And these are early experiment things where you don't know if they're going to hold up. It doesn't mean you can't make a game like this, but would there be people that would buy it? There was, right? It's a testing of the market. One of the first non-fantasy RPGs is what this was. Most early role-playing games placed players in a world of warriors, monsters, and magic. We say non-fantasy, but in reality, it is sort of intelligent creatures to a point, so it depends on how you treat that. Bunnies and Burrows took a very different path. Instead of heroes seeking glory, players became rabbits struggling to survive in a believable, natural world. By building an RPG around everyday survival rather than fantasy adventure, it became one of the earliest examples of how flexible the role playing hobby could be. Survival instead of combat. So from like levels 1 to 3 in D&D, this was true, but in this game, it's really the core of the game, right? One of the game's biggest innovations, they say biggest innovations, I say not. This was their take because if you read back, you could tell some of these guys don't know the early part of D&D is about this, right? But we'll put that aside. I'm just going to say what they say. One of the game's biggest innovations was changing what success looked like. Many adventurers were won by escaping danger, negotiating with other animals, finding a safer home, or simply surviving another day. Combat existed, but it was often the last option rather than the first. The game also became one of the earliest role-playing games to place a strong emphasis on skills and non-combat problem solving, encouraging players to rely on observation, communication, and practical knowledge as much as combat. Birth of the first edition of the game. Released in 1976, I mean, literally like 2 years after D&D came out, by Fantasy Games Unlimited, Bunnies and Burrows was designed by B. Dennis Sester and Scott Robinson. It was one of the earliest role-playing games published after Dungeons & Dragons and immediately stood out because it abandoned traditional fantasy heroes in favor of intelligent rabbits trying to survive in a believable natural world. Its unusual premise proved that role-playing games didn't have to revolve around powerful heroes and dungeon exploration to create memorable adventures. If you take from what people like, the people that like this, so it's a take without looking at it, and they never really did without taking criticism. We'll put it that way. The second edition came out in 1982. Fantasy Games Unlimited released a second edition in 1982. Rather than redesigning the game, this edition refined the original. The rules were clarified, the layout improved, and the material was better organized, making it easier for new players and game masters to learn. It remained fully recognizable as the same game rather than attempting a major redesign. It was preserving the original version of teamwork, intelligence, and survival over direct confrontation. Why it matters. Bunnies and Burrows proved that a role-playing game didn't need mighty heroes, powerful magic, or treasure-filled dungeons to create memorable adventures. Instead, it demonstrated that role-playing games could successfully focus on survival, cooperation, exploration, and problem-solving. In doing so, it brought in ideas about what an RPG could be during the hobby's earliest years. And it's trying to make the point. Now, a lot of people, at least at the time, hobbyists, were okay with this game. I'm sort of glad that the game didn't try to come out like in 1990, because you would have heard more complaints about this game because expectation changed by the majority that were brought in by AD&D 1E. They wanted action. They wanted a board game. They didn't want old role-playing. This came in at a time when hobbyists were playing the game, so they had a completely different approach on the game. They appreciated it. All right, now let's get into how to run Bunnies and Burrows. Think like nature, not a dungeon master. The first mindset shift is understanding that the world itself is the challenge. You're not building dungeons full of monsters waiting behind doors. Instead, you're creating a living countryside where weather changes, predators hunt, food becomes scarce, and every decision has consequences. Nature itself becomes the adventure. Survival creates the story. Most adventures should begin with a simple problem rather than an evil villain. Perhaps food is running low. A young rabbit has gone missing. A new predator has entered the territory. Another warden needs help. Wardens are locations where it's like packs of rabbits would come together, right? And these places became important. Like they're how they live, where they're going to live, right? So protecting a warren becomes a big issue. So another warren needs help, or humans have begun clearing parts of the forest. Small problems naturally grow into larger adventures without forcing the story. Remember, the characters are rabbits. Players are intelligent but they are still rabbits. A fox is terrifying. A hawk can strike without warning. A flooded stream may become an impossible barrier. An open field can become one of the most dangerous places in the adventure. Don't scale the world to the players. Let them discover ways to survive through planning, teamwork, and caution instead of expecting every obstacle to have a fair fight. It's not. It's meant to really push challenges on you. Think about the idea you're playing rabbits. In a way, every challenge is semi unfair on purpose. So the idea of balance really isn't there. It is meant to overwhelm you with simple things. Things that normally would get in your way in playing any other game will get in your way here. Make the war and feel like home, because it is like home. It's their community. Players should care about where they live, develop important rabbits within the warren, create rivalries, friendships, family matters, mentors, and responsibilities. Let the warren grow and change over time. New rabbits are born, elders pass away, leaders change, and relationships evolve. The home warren should feel like a living community rather than simply a safe place to rest between adventures. How do you do that? Well, it's social interaction. So expect to have your community be talking a lot. You can't develop NPCs if they don't talk to people, right? You can't develop none of this. If the whole game is run around doing action, none of this can develop. You have to have time to casual time, hang out in areas, talk to the rabbits, talk to the other rabbits around. And social interaction, a lot of old school guys will say social interaction didn't become a thing. I've heard some guys say not until Ravenloft. I was like, well, that's bullshit. Because even if you go back to AD&D, negotiating with the faction, negotiating with the merchant, negotiating with your enemy, the monster, and talking to the player characters, even the expectations about towns and NPCs and them having personalities. The game is expecting social interaction to the extreme from the get-go. It is a role-playing game, and they didn't ignore that aspect. It is not a board game, and people got to remember, most of the time the game was ran in your mind and the imagination, because miniature gameplay with a terrain was an optional thing. Mandatory was pure theater of the mind. I've heard people say, well, it can't be. I'm like, well, look, if miniatures are optional, what's your default? Well, it doesn't have to be pure theater of the mind. Well, how else do you play it? Is there a third option? If you don't use miniatures, how do you have to play the game? Theater of the mind. And even when you do use miniatures, most people, for most parts of the game, use theater of the mind right up until the point where they're using miniatures and fights and stuff. So I'm like, it's just, if you take the miniature option out, you're stuck with just pure theater of the mind. And people forget that there's not a single TSR edition where miniatures are mandatory. Miniatures are optional in OD&D, BECME, all this. Same here. There's not even expectation that you're using really miniatures with this game. So social interaction, the role play aspect of it is important. And it's important to D&D. It's important to all role-playing games going forward. Not by the time Ravenloft is. So all these elements are already there. Reward clever thinking. Combat should rarely be the obvious solution. If players avoid predators, negotiate with another animal, create a distraction, discover a safe route, or solve a problem through careful planning, reward those decisions. The game shines when intelligence consistency succeeds where violence would fail. So your rabbits, you're really not going to be good at fighting to begin with. You want to avoid combat. And if the game is all about that if that's the main aim of the game, is to mostly avoid danger, then all attempts to do it and do it well should be rewarded, because any good advice for a game master is usually reward the type of gameplay you're looking for. Well, this is the type of gameplay. Avoidance. Combat should be usually the last solution, because combat is extremely dangerous in this game for the type of characters you're playing. Role play the animal kingdom. Not every encounter needs to become a chase or a fight. Different animals have different instincts, territories, and behaviors. And so social interaction becomes a huge gimmick with this game, as it does almost every game. A fox may simply be hunting for food. So it doesn't have to always go after the rabbit. It might be going after like some other creature, right? You could probably talk your way over, right? Uh, Badger may only be defending its den. Birds may warn of danger, while other creatures may become unexpected allies under the right circumstances. Treat each encounter as meeting another living creature with its own place in the natural world, rather than simply running another combat encounter. So every time something's encountered, it should be negotiate, talk, figure out what's going on first before the concept of combat ever comes into the game. And combat is extremely dangerous in this game. So the incentive to avoid it is a major piece of survival. And if the game is all about survival, you really want to avoid all of it. I'm just saying it would actually be probably the smartest move. Make discovery worthwhile. Players are not exploring to find treasure hoards or magical weapons. The reward often comes with discovering a safer path, locating a new food source, finding an abandoned burrow, learning about another warren, or uncovering knowledge that helps the colony survive. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's not about treasure hunting, but it's what do you see as treasure? A safe path is as valuable as the treasure a character might find in D&D. A new food source, because the game is about getting food. It's really this aim. So in a way, I'm not saying that treasure is not good. It's just you got to re-examine what you consider treasure for this creature. And so treasure would be learning about a new warren. That's new trade, new rabbits, new everything right there. So that keeps benefiting you in your group, right? Exploration should feel meaningful even when no combat takes place. Build tension without constant combat. So it doesn't mean combat can't happen. It's just that it really it's not something you over focus on. And there always could be a threat. Most times you're not even to kill a threat. You want to probably hit it and run off, right? And so build tension without constant combat. The players should often feel vulnerable, but they shouldn't feel hopeless. A distant hawk circling overhead, unfamiliar scents in the wind, fresh fox tracks, or a sound of a barking dog can create suspense long before danger arrives. Often, what the players fear is just as powerful as the danger itself. So it's all about avoidance. And the game really isn't made for a lot of combat. So when I'm saying don't think about combat constant or even often, it's almost like rarely. It's the chance of combat happening should always be, not always, but I mean, it's you spread it out. So the threat of combat, the potential of combat is there. But most, if players are playing it wise, 99%, if they can, should be avoided. Avoid. Right. Keep the world moving. Life continues whether the players act or not. The seasons change. Food sources appear and disappear. Predators move into new territories. New little litters are born. Humans build fences, roads, and farms that permanently alter the landscape. A changing world makes every journey feel different and reminds players that nature never stands still. And it's also a good way to remind players that this is a game about pressure. Like if you start this, you don't need to worry that players are going to sit around with characters for too long because you only get so much food. You need food right away. You need food sources. You need to secure all this and then secure more. You constantly have animals coming around that could threaten you. You have humans moving in and changing things. And this type of pressure should always be put on them and felt by players with their characters. So they constantly need to move, check new locations, move the fucking group if they have to, find other burrows, stuff like this. So these pressures are good for the game. They're really actually good, right? Because you might be sitting around like, what do we do with rabbits? Don't worry, dude. You're almost out of food. Okay, we need food. Oh, humans are coming by. Oh shit, they're changing the area. We can't stay here. Exactly. Winning doesn't require defeating anyone. Success isn't measured by the number of enemies defeated. A successful adventure might mean escorting young rabbits to safety, discovering a new feeding ground, preventing conflict between warrens, surviving a harsh winter, or simply returning home alive. Sometimes simply surviving the journey is complete success. Those victories capture the spirit of Bunnies and Burrows far better than counting defeated enemies, which are so rare and the chances are likely not happening. So you just sort of you got to take the game differently. Just understand combat is a failure. It's bad. Just the whole game, like that should be the mindset of the players, and the DM should be there too for it. And if you're in a game like this for combat, you have entered the wrong game. Right? It's like, think about combat like getting electrocuted. You don't want to get electrocuted, not even in any game. So you definitely don't want to be fighting here. Run Bunnies and Burrows as an adventure set in a living natural world. Let survival, exploration, and the changing countryside drive the story, or the story that will emerge. Reward clever thinking over combat. Make Warren feel like a real community worth protecting. And remember that sometimes the greatest victory is simply making it home alive. So have some, it sounds like common sense, but some of the advice I've given there is stuff they don't directly mention in the text. It's all good stuff. If you don't know much about animals, or bunnies, I mean, that's some good general advice for areas to start with. Escorting young bunnies to a new place or to another ward, right? Going to look for these things. It's not all very direct in the text, so that's all good advice for how to run this game. Now we're going to get into character creation in a second. We're going to take a little a pause. I hope you get how simple the game is, but what makes the game interesting is the social interaction. It's the interaction with the developing the Warren Bunny community with the different personalities of the different bunnies, right? They might have rivals competing. Oh, they race, stuff like that. Oh, my. We're getting a Discord comment during that time, but yeah, I'll answer that. So it's developing. So through social interaction, developing the Warren, getting to know people there, letting the characters talk to the different rabbits, so you can actually have time to speak as them, share opinions and personality traits, so they get to know who they are. Make it feel like, develop a friendship, develop people, the rabbits that know each other, so the community feels like you're in it together. And have, basically as a game master, I would say, make sure that the other rabbits, for the most part, care about the Warren. That's their neighbors. Hey, neighbors, we got to take care of each other. Have that type of mindset. Share that through opinion and dialogue with the rabbits. Then, combat is the last thing you want to do in the game. Like, as a game master, it's the last thing your players are going to want to do is combat. Trust me, there's little things. There's more than just, there's pretty basic straight combat, but even wounds can be a thing. I don't want to go too much deep into that until we get to it later. But combat's very bad. So even your encounters with everything from a badger protecting its den to birds giving warnings to even the fox, that's the thing that might want to eat you and you got to talk your way out of it. There's a lot of talking in character. Like a lot. Now, outside of that, it's going to be challenging players with things that aren't combat, like, going through things, avoiding things, finding safer paths. All this stuff I'm giving you advice for is actually really good. And you can actually get a lot out of that. A lot. Right? It's all about survival. You might want to put a goal that they got to survive until a certain time, like next year. That will be your sort of mini sandbox campaign, right? They got to survive until a certain point. That's probably the best way to go about it. Like, put a survival timeline, I would call it, right? Survive until to this point, and then we'll see where the characters are. There is leveling up and stuff like that through what you're doing. So all the things, negotiating, finding stuff. Skill use is good. Like, cause skills to like get into an area that's hard to get into where there might be food, right? So there's all kinds of skills you're going to have. It's a very skill focused game where it's not combat. You want to make all that good, and it's going to be a slow growth game on levels. This is not a rapid growth game. Don't be expected. The player shouldn't expect to be leveling up like crazy. It is meant to be a slower paced game on purpose. So it's really dive into the world. So this is where, say, the aspects I said earlier before getting into the game, like living in the world, like the rain, the heat, how it feels on the bunny when they're being rained on. These elements of bringing the world to life is really important. Feeling the setting, feeling each day for what it is, and the fear of what if humans are coming down, taking over parts where it could be damaging the war in the little place, little community where you and the other rabbits live. And by doing the social interaction and making sure that's a thing, it's the aim is to create relationships where you will care about the others, and there's a reason, and you make it that the others care about each other to a degree, regardless of rivalries. They you feel like you're on the team and you're against the world, right? You're a community against the world. The world is can be negotiated with, but the world is a threat to you. And then another thing I would say as a game master is, when we get to setting, I'll explain it more when we get to setting. I don't want to say too much here. Next is going to be character creation, then straight into setting. Okay. So remember, that was advice for second edition, but remember what I told you. Second edition is just first edition. Like it's revised. It's not really like a different game. So even if you somehow played first edition, everything I'm telling you here would work, right? It would make sense. It'd be good advice. So character creation for Bunnies and Burrows second edition. You are creating a rabbit, not a hero. Now I put a haha at the end of that. There's a lot of games, a lot of old school games where some of my opening lines for character creation is, you're creating a person, not a hero, to understand the difference between the D&D game and that game. I thought it was cute that I put in. I put it on purpose. I put cute, but I have to say it. You are creating a rabbit, not a hero. I can't say that about the other games. It's always, you're creating a person, not a hero. And if any regulars listen to this, they've heard me say that plenty of times, because many games that's just true, right? And you can't skip by without pointing that out, right? But in this one, you're creating a rabbit, not a hero. Character creation begins with a different mindset than most role-playing games. You're not building the strongest warrior searching for the perfect combat build. Instead, you're creating a believable rabbit with natural abilities, useful skills, and a place within its community. The goal is to create a character that feels like it belongs in this world. Your attributes come first. Every rabbit begins with a set core of attributes that represents its natural abilities. Those attributes influence many of your skills and determine what your rabbit naturally excels at. Deciding your strengths where your strengths lie is one of the first important choices you'll make, providing the foundation for the rest of your character. Age shapes your rabbit. Age is more than a piece of background information. Younger rabbits bring different advantages and limitations than older, more experienced ones, than older and more experienced ones. Your choice of age helps define not only your abilities, but also how your rabbit fits into the social life of the warren. It is a simple choice that adds personality before the adventure begins. So age is a very important choice. If you're going to pick younger, your relationship or your importance in the warren and the community changes right away. It will be altered if you're picking young or older, right? And even the way you make your character, your options becomes different, right? And your health, everything is different from young to older, but you could choose whatever you want. Every rabbit has value. Well, actually, before that, skills define your identity. Instead of choosing a character class, rabbits are primarily defined by their skills. These determine how your characters approach challenges and help distinguish one rabbit from another. Two rabbits may share similar attributes, but become completely different characters because of the skills they develop. Skills give each rabbit its own role without locking players into a fixed class. Every rabbit has value. Character creation isn't about finding the strongest combination of abilities. A sharp eyed scout, a knowledgeable forager, or a fast runner all contribute in different ways. The game encourages players to create rabbits with complementary strengths, allowing each character to shine when their particular talents are needed. So it's again, have players talk to each other during character creation, right? Had that be communicated. Make sure the new if a new player comes in a little later that they know what's already made, right? Be a little open with characters in this game, just to give other players a chance to make a variety. Doesn't mean you can't make something similar, but maybe it's like, okay, we made something similar, but I'll pick some other skills that the other one doesn't have, right? So it's a complementary thing. Think about your place in the Warren. Before the adventure begins, consider how your rabbit fits into a community or its community. Who who are your family? Who do you trust? Have you earned the respect of the Warren's leaders, or are you still proving yourself? Are there older rabbits who depend on you, or other rabbits? Or I put older. That's just a human error. These relationships help the game master create adventures that feel connected to your character's life rather than existing in isolation. Think like a rabbit. Personality matters. So during character creation, it actually expects you to do all this. It's not always clear, but when you go through the character creation, all this, what I'm explaining to you now, will make more sense. Because you're going to actually face the game like a real rabbit, not like a cartoon character rabbit running around with a sword. The game is going to be like you're living to survive like a rabbit. So if you're going to make a character, make sure you're understanding that in the process. Personality matters, but so does instincts. When danger appears, does your rabbit freeze, hide, observe from a distance, or immediately look for an escape route? Is it naturally curious or constantly cautious? Does it take risks to help others or avoid unnecessary dangers? These instincts often help shape memorable role playing moments throughout a campaign. There's a variety of different types of rabbits you can be. You can be the cautious type, you can be the outgoing type. You can't be all in one, and you can't really vary. So whatever type you're going to be, that's what you're going to be, at least until you're maybe forced to face a challenge and justify a growth or something like that through the game. And it actually expects you to go through that. Grow through experience, which is what we're going to talk about now. Characters improve gradually through the experience they gain during their adventures. Growth reflects what a rabbit has learned while surviving in a dangerous world rather than dramatic leaps in power. As your character gains experience, it becomes wiser, more capable, and better prepared for challenges that lie ahead. Character creation in Bunnies and Burrows is about creating a believable rabbit rather than building a traditional fantasy hero. Your attributes provide the foundation, skills define your role, age adds experience and perspective, and your relationships and instincts bring the character to life. The result is a rabbit that feels like a genuine part of its world before the adventure even begins. They don't always clear this stuff up. You got to go in with the mindset, and then everything you're seeing makes a lot more sense. Setting, or we'll call it setting. it it's like a place in the world rather than say like a world. It's definitely not that. You're a rabbit in the real world to a degree, or whatever you want to call it. A familiar world. Unlike many role playing games, Bunnies and Burrows doesn't take place in a detailed fantasy world with kingdoms, continents, and centuries of history. Instead, the game is set in a believable countryside inspired by the natural world and the landscapes found in Watership Down. Forest, fields, hills, streams, farms, and woodlands become the places where adventures unfold. The setting is intentionally familiar, allowing players to understand the world through everyday nature rather than learning pages of new lore. So it's easy to jump in. It's not hard. You don't get to learn a bunch of lore to understand this game at all. Life begins at the warren. The heart of the setting is the rabbit's warren. This is where rabbits live, raise their young, build friendships, and form their community rather than serving a little more than a starting location. The warren gives players a place worth protecting, returning after each adventure. For many campaigns, the warren becomes the center of the story. So what I would say is It's like your town, but it's more than that. It's like your nation. It's all right, Bill. I hope, like, I started this early. I know it's 4th of July. I know you're probably going to be busy tonight, but when you definitely get a chance, you can go through the rest of this. Don't worry, dude. Uh, I think you'll appreciate my take on this, even though it's Bill, Bunnies and Burrows. There's only so much meat, but I think my advice is really good. It's just giving advice you're not going to find in the text all the time. Pretty straightforward. I'll give a little bit more freehand talk when I'm done the setting part here. Almost done the setting part, and I'll go over some of the stuff I've already talked about. The world looks different to a rabbit. One of the setting's greatest strengths is its sense of scale. A stream, a stream becomes a dangerous obstacle. There you go. One of the setting's greatest strengths is its sense of scale. Like I said, a stream becomes a dangerous obstacle. Wide field offers little protection from predators. Thick undergrowth becomes a place to hide, while the countryside road can feel almost impossible to cross safely. The setting encourages players to see an ordinary landscape from an entirely different perspective. Every journey feels bigger. Distance has completely different meaning when you're a rabbit. Traveling what would seem like a short distance to a person can become an expedition. Crossing a road may require careful planning, or reaching another warren can become an adventure in itself. This change in perspective transforms familiar countryside into a world filled with discovery and risk. Nature shapes everyday life. The countryside provides everything rabbits need to survive, but also creates many of their greatest challenges. Food, shelter, weather, and changing seasons all influence daily life. The landscape constantly presents both opportunities and obstacles, making the environment an active part of everyday adventure rather than simply a backdrop. This is an important detail. Other animals share the world. Don't forget this. There's no free reign on anything. Food, even if you find food, right? It's like, okay, you found it today. It's out there. There's other animals that are similar to yourself going to be looking for the same food sources. So we'll get more into that in a second. Rabbits are only one part of a much larger ecosystem. Every creature is simply living on its own, living its own life. Predators hunt, prey hides, birds migrate, and animals defend their territory, whether player characters are present or not. Some encounters bring danger, while others offer opportunities to observe, learn, or avoid conflict. The countryside feels alive because the world doesn't revolve around the players. Humanity exists at the edge of the story, or at the edge of the game. I'm using their language. Like, look, it's still story emerges. Let's be real, guys, right? But it'd be dishonest for me to say this any other way. They see this as story importance. I don't bring my own opinions here, not when I'm covering facts. You know that. So this is all fact-based. So I give you what is said about the game, right? And I in my opinion part for the character creation and how to run it, that's a lot of my own statements here. But most of what they say here for the setting is what they say. So so humans are present, but the game really focuses on them as characters. Instead, their farms, roads, fences, traps, and expanding settlements change the landscape in ways that affect rabbit life. From a rabbit's point of view, humanity is less a civilization and more of a powerful force that constantly reshapes the world around them. The influence of people is often felt long before they are ever seen. The second edition's approach, rather than expanding the game into a larger fictional campaign world, the second edition builds upon the natural world approach established by the original game. It provides game masters with guidance for creating their own countryside, warrens, landmarks, and local adventures instead of presenting an official setting with extensive history or politics. This gives each campaign the freedom to develop its own identity while remaining true to the game's central themes. Meaning, it's sandbox. This whole game is sandbox. It's simple sandbox. It's straightforward what you got to do, but you just got to get out there and do it. Bunnies and Burrows doesn't offer a massive campaign setting filled with kingdoms and centuries of lores. Instead, it places adventure in a believable countryside inspired by Watership Down and viewed through the eyes of a rabbit. The second edition embraces that approach, giving game masters the freedom to create their own warrens, local adventures while using the natural world instead, or world itself as a setting. So let's talk a bit about this. You know, when I talk about the setting, it says big scale. It really is important that you present everything in that way. Like, you got to understand, how does the road, like, you know how the road looks to a person? It's just you got to cross the road. But when you're presenting that as a game master to somebody playing a rabbit, it's huge. Like a road crossing a road is a long travel, and there's many things that can come down at any second. Right? It's dangerous, it's big, and perspective should be important that you note it. When they come across trees, you don't just say they come across trees. Remind them they have to look up at these massive trees that take up a large area. Like, keep reminding players, you don't got to do too much overkill, but keep reminding them the scale of things compared to their character, the rabbit. Like, the fence is huge in size. The tree is huge inside. The bush is huge. So you're planting seeds in the minds of your players to get them to realize just how big this area is compared to the character. Because if it was for humans, well, just a field with some trees and they can run through and go through the trees and be on the other side. You just run across the road, that's no problem. So scaling it to humans, this all becomes very small. Scaling perspective and actually detailing that out for the players is a way of, it's and simple, but you want to keep reminding players just how big this is. Now, what about some of the things you're doing in the game? You're avoiding a lot of combat and you want to find safe travel, food sources, other warrants for trade, and even other places you can move your warren if you have to. Other burrows that might have been left where it was, so there might be other food there, or items, or even you could move into a different burrow. Burrows are these places around the warren that are very important to you. There is another part I'm going to cover, Bill. Don't worry about that. I'm going to have a smoke right now. We're going to talk about some freehand stuff. The game mastering stuff, as far as the advice I gave for doing the different types of adventures, going for food and that's good. The setting advice is still game master advice, right? But I didn't want to talk about that until I got to the setting. Scale is very, very important, and seeding that in the minds of players to remind them of the size of the place. So you turn what is small to humans into a big, big area for gameplay, adventure, and everything for the rabbits. And it is that. It really is that. Now, I want you to note that as a game master, don't treat, like, say, a fox that might eat a rabbit. You got to remember, this is not your normal game. It's meant to be more presented like the real world, even though the fox is going to be more intelligent than the normal fox. You can play the badger as more like human intelligence, fox like human intelligence, rabbit like human intelligence. They still want the fox presented as a fox, and that means the fox is initially not evil. It's just trying to get food. And the game actually expects you to take that part serious, right? It doesn't mean there can't be some cruel animals out there that might be vicious and might even be closer to a villain. But you really need to develop a personality and then make sure that fox is definitely not the same as every other fox, right? Because just because you're meeting a fox and the fox can be a threat to the rabbit doesn't mean the fox is a villain. And because of that, that's to remind players that they can talk their way out of something. Just because you're meeting a fox doesn't mean you can't negotiate your way out. The fox is not evil in intent right away. And so don't look at it like a D&D game. The fox is not like an orc. It's not just like your enemy that's likely going to fight you no matter what, right? A badger could come out and try to strike you if you got too close to its stuff and it panicked. But would it be trying to attack you because it wants to hurt you or it's bad? No, it's just really protective of its area. Then you got to think that not every warren is going to be your next best friend. So you might find a food source, but what if another rabbit followed you? You leave, you go back, you got some food, you tell your ward, they're going to go collect some food from this area. They get up there and it's stripped. So scouting, watching what you're doing, not getting followed could be very important. See, if combat's not a major thing in the game, it's not. It is there. What I say is, combat is not like it's like you're not meant to be running around getting into encounters. So in reality, just avoiding combat in general is the way you should be playing the game. If you can avoid all combat, that's good. Don't think of it like a D&D game where combat is meant to be part of the experience. Like the idea of simple survival is the game. That's it. Simple survival from one maybe season to another could be a campaign. You could just see how many seasons you could survive, as long as, but you want to make, what you start making is social interaction becomes hugely important in this game. So character development becomes a huge importance, right? A huge importance. It's like, imagine for the first season, you got to deal with a fox. You got to deal with a fox. The fox will go after a threatening group of rodents that keep trying to strip all the food away. There could be rodents that are coming in and trying to strip all the food away. Now, you have to fight the rodents. You might actually have to do a little bit of combat there, but again, still avoiding combat, still good. But you can make rodents an enemy, potentially. The fox could end up teaming up with you. Now, you might even get hunted by a hawk, but maybe the hawk is willing to eat rodents. Rodents can be a great filler. Here's my suggestion. Most of the time, other than an odd rodent personality of niceness, rodents should be a sort of, think about them like petty thieves. A great mix. But you could have a fox that works with you for a while, and then what makes it become threatening is, well, next year there's a new fox, and that fox wants to kill you, not the rodent. Thinking and socializing is important. Now, Bill will know this because socializing with your warren, so you can get to know the people there, and so you want to character develop all that. With crows for information, yep, going to talk to the crows. So social interaction is a huge part of the game. It really is. Now, I would say my advice, and so new people coming into the hobby that would ever try this, so a lot of people hear the people doing unique voices and think that's what you got to do to be good. It's not it at all. Not it at all. Tone. If you play a smaller rabbit or a more whatever type of rabbit, soften the tone and then say words you think the rabbit would say. Like if Bill was playing in my game, and he's going to play 2 campaigns. In one campaign, he's going to play a small, weaker rabbit, maybe fast. And he's not a big, thick rabbit or anything. I'd be like, all right, man, like I'd expect Bill to soften the tone a bit, just sort of speak a little softer and say words he thinks his character would say. Not what Bill would say. I don't want Bill the rabbit. I want the character of the character is. I want Bill to understand that his character is not Bill. Right, so I want Bill to think about what his character would say. Then say Bill makes a thicker rabbit the next time. Older guy, very big, boom like this, maybe a little slower, but he's thick. All right, I expect Bill to talk a little bit more outward, not so much soften the tone. And maybe it's closer to how Bill speaks. Fair enough. Be a little bit more forward with your speech. Say things that would be, make sure you're speaking differently than the small little rabbit you were speaking for before. And that's all you got to do as a player. That's a tone change, and not a big tone change. I'm not say do a unique voice. I'm just saying if you're not playing a big brute, don't give me, like, understand my guy says this. Like, you speak soft. You don't get to speak like ASMR. You don't get to overkill control of voice. It's just if you're talking like, yeah, my guy's, he's sitting there, yeah, I'm not putting up with this shit. Or if you're playing the smaller round, it's like, yeah, man, I'm going to be careful here. My guy's going to go right through it. Like, speak in a way that really aligns with the type of character. Put a tone. If you're more feminine, speak softer. Say words you think your character would say. That's a major piece of the puzzle, right? That's all you got to do. When you had a fight, it was truly terrifying. It really was. I know exactly what you mean because, well, you'll know this, but I haven't got to the details, and I don't want to say all the details yet, but it won't be much on it. But wounds. We'll say wounds. I won't add more than that. You'll get that. Wounds. Right? Major piece of crippling your character. So fighting is a threat to you. Fighting is an extreme threat to who you are. Like, so basically, if you can play most of this game, if you can play the game and avoid all combat, your job is it's survival. It's pure survival. Trading, getting food, safe travel, finding other wards, dealing with crows, dealing with the other animals that are around, and then the DM has to understand the other animals still, even though they talk and have human intelligence, they'll still behave like crows will still be crows doing what crows do. Right. Now, again, just like any other animal, foxes could be nicer and some foxes could be more aggressive. Right. So imagine, and that could be a big change to how you have to experience. Imagine you're dealing with a female fox that doesn't kill you but goes after rodents. But the next season, she has a mate. And the mate, when he comes out to hunt, he doesn't go after the rodents, he goes after you. And it's harder to talk to him. He doesn't care. Like, he wants rabbit. So that can change. So new threats can come. Human development. You could have to move the warren. The warren shouldn't be just the place. This is why the game is saying get to know the people in your warden. The ward is your group. Think about it that way. It's your community. So if you think of the ward more as the other, you and the other rabbits, you understand you can move and that's okay. New burrows, new location, maybe one abandoned by other rabbits. You could be looking for something like that. More meat, less work. But Bill gets it, and as long as and you want to bring these little complexities because you're not doing dungeon crawling. And then, like Bill, the game says it's not about treasure hunting, or the way I explain it, and I think you'd agree with me, is it's not. I think the game is about treasure, but it's what we call treasure. See, in my view, treasure is what you value. So when I say treasure in this game, I mean like treasure is food source, not gold for a rabbit. Treasure is safe routes that they can use consistently, right? Treasure, because these are valuable, just like gold and items are for humans, right? So I say, or finding another warren you can trade with, or finding a group of crows you could. I see that as treasure. Actually, creating relationships is treasure. Anything you've established that is good for you in this game is treasure. But you also got to understand, with a nuanced thinking game master who wants to understands it, needs to challenge you more than just say the combat stuff. You do got to watch out when you find food sources that you protect the food source, or that you don't get it ripped off, right? Safety and security. To me, that's I look at it as just a whatever you. When I think treasure, I just think of value, right? So to me, it's like a food source is like a fucking chest of gold. Right, because food is so important. And here's what I like, Bill. This is what I appreciate with this game. It teaches you about pressures right away. Not like it's what I would say. Not really, Philo. Even though it's so dangerous, not really. And here's why. Like if you play D&D old school from levels 1 to 3, and you avoid on purpose almost all combat, well, you survive more. You don't got to make up 5 characters. Doesn't mean you can't run to trust. Doesn't mean you can't die. This game is the same way. Actually, the attempt to survive and avoid fighting means most of the time you will probably survive if you play smart, put characters together, aim at that as gameplay. But it doesn't mean you can't. Is it frequent like a meat grinder? No. And if you play D&D also avoiding stuff, it goes from meat grinder to not meat grinder. And this is, think about this in that D&D aspect, is this is in D&D it's from level 1 to 3 you want to do that to survive till you're more capable. In this game, level 1 to 3 is forever. So that zone of survivable gameplay is just the whole campaign. You never get to a point where fighting is good. Does players have a lot of ways to escape danger, such as hiding, camouflage, being in herd? Well, that's definitely what they're looking for. Is there's lots of skills too for escaping, like skills, camouflage. It is exactly that, Phil. Like your common sense is telling you what you'd be expecting, and it is there. See, it's yes. I'd say yes. All that is all possible in the game. There can be that horror bunny death. You have to be smart. That's what it is. Like it doesn't mean it's a meat grinder initially, but you can learn the hard way if you're a new player. And D&D is like that too. This game is not a hand-holding game. It doesn't tell you exactly what to do. It expects you to learn. I think Bill would agree with that. The game doesn't exactly tell you to. It gives you the common sense. It does hint to you properly to be careful that you're a rabbit, not a hero looking for fights. Okay, so it does sort of drill that at you. Does it drill it at you 10 times? No. And if you get into the game and you go, fuck it, let's try to fight that. Even the rodents are going to be dangerous if you apply them into the game, or if you do anything that can a hawk can be dangerous, right? You can't. All you have to do is outrun your Philo. That can be this game, sadly, but that's Bill. Bill will agree with it. Bill gets your joke, but Bill would agree. Realism is on the table, dude. So yeah, outrunning your friend could be the reason you survive and the other character doesn't. That can be a real thing. Yeah, if you play smart, take your warnings, work with other groups, because like the crows could be great at war. Like there's trade, but Bill will understand this. You can there could be friendly rodents, there could be friendly squirrels, there could be friendly deer, there could be friendly birds that will give you warnings about threats going on. There's not always 50 million predators, but they do exist. It really is, and it is about so it is meant to be dangerous where you could die right away. But like in most cases, if you play smart, you're not going to. That's what I would say. Is there any guarantee of anything? There's no guarantee. But to say it's frequent, it's random, dude. That's completely random. Is there a guarantee? Like, is it guaranteed frequent death all the time with every group? No. Is it guaranteed that every group just goes through and never dies with a character? No. So it is sort of like, hey, you get into it and you hope it works out for you. It's like the best way I could put it is like if I play the game, I like the game Rust. If I get to start up Rust, I could play 10 times. Say 4 times, I could survive up to the point of having an extended base. 3 times, I could play up to the point of just getting my base started and then dying. And the other 3 times, I could just start the game, and before I could even get a gun or even get a bow, I'm dead. Is there a consistent? Is it 9 times out of 10 I'm dead before I get the bow? No. Is it 9 times out of 10 I'm dead before I get the starter base? No. Is it 9 times out of 10 that I'm dead before a base with an extension? No. So it's random enough that it's luck and other things going with it. Oh, because it's so dangerous? And you got to enjoy the experience of being in it rather than needing to be in fights all the time. I love the experience feel. Bill's old school guy. He's my kind of guy. He gets the feel. Like, to me, eye level, like D&D, here's a great example. Bill was telling the guys earlier. It's like, imagine it's raining and you're with your like level 3 group, and it's been fucking storming, and you get into you find like you're in the fucking road, but you finally find a cabin, you get inside, you sit down, you fucking shake off all the water. Next thing you know, after like a few moments, I'm like, you start hearing like this knock, like this, not like a knock, like knock on the door, like you do, but like a knock on the back wall, knock, knock, knock. And it's just on the back wall of the cabin. And you know, in D&D, you can die easily. It's that type of, oh fuck, what's outside? Like, it's that type of shit situation that you're in a lot with Bunnies and Burrows. Like, you get a constant that type of danger feel of, oh shit, we just heard a noise. Like, if the game master in Bunnies and Burrows says you hear a noise, holy fuck no, man. No. Because it could be anything, but it could be the thing that's going to easily kill you. Right? So then you're up, you're looking, you're checking, you're using your skills, you're avoiding, you're hiding, getting the camouflage. Like, it's because at any moment you can die. And most things that are going to be things that could hunt you and kill you will outdo you. It's unfair. Bill will get what I'm saying when I say this. Combat is unfair for the bunnies. Like, the fox can tear you to pieces easily, and you would have a hard time ever winning that fight. It's not made for fighting. It is unfair on purpose. You are not a prey animal. You are not a hunting animal. You are not made for the fight. The fox is. The fox can kick your ass really easily, right? You might have a chance if I downgrade what rodents are in stats, but still, most prey animals, it's unfair on purpose. It has no shame about being unfair. It's one thing to run to a fox, but I mean, if I want to put a wolf into the game and up the stats, holy fuck. And then even worse, there could be human hunters with bunny traps. And there could be old bunny traps forgotten about that are still set up. So you don't even get a warning. There's no warning from birds because they don't see the trap. You know, squirrels don't even know about it. You found a new food source, so you're like, oh, see food. No one's touched it. Well, maybe if you pay attention, you might see a bone. Then if you look where the bone is, you might see a trap that went off. Is that the only one? The game is very, and it's meant to be. It doesn't mean it's always dangerous, but when there is danger, it's such a threat to the characters that it is to be taken serious. One snap of a trap, over, you're done. Fox decides to go after you. Well, you weren't hidden, you're done. Hawk comes down and grabs you by the neck and twist because you weren't hiding in time, you're done. So fighting is unfair. And the prey animals always have the up on you. And you got to be understanding that part. That's why when saying the game is not made for fighting, it's really not. And then there's not just that. It's difficult to play as the role-playing animal. It's limited intelligence. No, these ones are intelligent like humans. Remember, it's Watership Down. Maybe you haven't seen that, Philo. If you want to know what inspired this game, go check out Watership Down. And then you realize you have to sort of play like it's like you have to play with the instincts of the bunny. So it has to be a bunny, but it's human intelligence. Like it's on a level that you can think like a human with the skills. But think about just like being able to be a small human with fur. That's what it is. So you're not playing a rabbit like you can actually your rabbit can talk. The crow can talk to you. Now, the idea is on the outside of it, if humans heard you talking, they would hear the crow crowing. They would hear the bunny making whimpering sounds and maybe pounding its feet. But translate it into your world, it's just you speaking in character. That's why I was talking about tone with Bill. If you're playing a smaller bunny, softer tone. Bigger bunny, so you can speak like Watership Down. Watership Down is where the animals are speaking. Now, the idea is it's still not complete fantasy, right? It's still allowing them to have human intelligence to that degree, to a degree. Still limited, though. You're not like genius human beings. You're still limited. Like, it's almost like, imagine you're a human, but you still, no matter how much you can speak in that, you still have to play believable to the instincts of the bunny. Yeah, it's just be big numbers. You can, I know some traps and disarm some. You're not scientists. You're not human scientists. Bill gets it. It's common sense. Like you can sort of take the assumptions humans would have about rabbits being semi-intelligent. No, see, you can't do that. And the game makes that very clear. So they can't abuse it. And you'd have to cut them off right there. No, you can't do that. You're not human intelligent like scientist. You have minor things. You have minor intelligence like a child. You can speak like a kid to a degree. You can count very basic, but if I said count to 100, not really. In most cases, you count to like 10 or 20, maybe. So can't abuse it. Just not even optional. It's not even a maybe. That would just be piss poor game master. I'd be on you right there. That dude, that's not them abusing the game. That's them abusing you. So, game master better. You don't get a problem. Now you're just learning this, but it's not pure human intelligence. It's just not like you can do science. You can be fucking master human thinking. Well, that's it. Like it's fighting could be like you're forced to fight, but if you kick the fox enough that it takes some damage, it most likely will take off and leave you alone. Right? That's why I said you might kick something to get away from it earlier when I was giving advice about, like, say, getting into a fight. Fights aren't always to the death, right? They are just fighting for food. It's not like fighting a war for where they've been sent in as soldiers for the king and they're willing to die for him. That's it. Like you might kick in the head. Feel, fee, fo, fum. That's it, Black Rose. So it's really fun once you get to the common sense side. It's just like basically you could take what, like, imagine you talk to your dog and you think your dog gets that he has to go down here and get around the thing. It's that type of assumed intelligence, most animals don't even have anyway. But you could sort of get away with it. So you could, and bunnies and burrows, you could talk in character. You can use basic common sense to try to outthink. And you do have some skills. The skills are really what you're going to lean on instead of worrying about trying to pretend you're a scientist, right? That just be unrealistic play. It's like I even tell your players, Philo, like, guys, if you want to go play a video game, because that's what you're doing here, go play the video game. These are role-playing games. Actually, you're failing to be intelligent by trying to overkill with the intelligence. The intelligence, what would challenge a player's intelligence is to be able to downgrade to the concept of thinking, yeah, I can speak instead of making the bunny things. I can use some level of common sense, maybe count up to 10 or 20, but there is a level of dumb you're going to hit. Like, so if they met a human and they could talk to a human, and a human said, That thing is like 100 feet tall. What does that mean? That's what the bunny would say to him, right? They wouldn't even understand. But alcohol-free beer and cheese doodles. Cheesier snack. It's time for with cheddar. Early again, I say, yeah, early because I know some people wouldn't be around. Like Bill, probably because for 4th of July, there were some people I knew were coming. It's not for quick murder hobos. No, it's not. This is a game where you got to accept what it is. And if you don't, I would say not play it. It's all. Just go play the game that's going to sort you out if you want to go fight or fucking kill things or whatever. If you come to this game, you watch the watership down and you have to enjoy what you're seeing there and then want to play it. That's it. This is a game where it is made for a specific experience. It's not hard to understand that. There's no point in abusing it. It would just say right away, my thing would be like, oh, you want to do this thing where you overthink and go fight and kill? Just go play a different game, dude. That's D&D. Just go play that. Yeah, well, I say dumb as in just understand they're not wise about it. Potentially, they could be smart enough. I think it was what Bill is saying. They could be taught to count to 100 and understand it, right? But initially, they don't have a lot of like human understanding of things. They understand basic things, like they would understand things that relate to what they need. Like the cherry tree always produces a lot of these things. Like it would understand the basic knowledge of the things that affect their life and they know about, right? Oh yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Actually, let's cover the last part because these are some technical things. Okay, Under the Hood for Bunnies and Burrows second edition, which again is just the first edition. Understand, right? It's just a revised. The percentile system. Bunnies and Burrows uses a percentile D100 system as the foundation of its rules. Most uncertain actions are resolved through the game's percentile-based skill system. Players roll percent dice and compare the result to appropriate skill, giving the game a straightforward resolution mechanic that keeps play moving without requiring complex calculations. Skills are the heart of the game for players. Skills drive nearly every aspect of play. Whether you're spotting danger, tracking scents, finding food, navigating unfamiliar ground, or solving everyday problems, skills are used constantly. The skill list covers far more than combat, reflecting the everyday challenges of surviving as a rabbit rather than being occasional rules. Skills are woven into almost every adventure. It does this game, I would say the same thing. It doesn't mean you always need a dice roll for everything. But whenever there's pressure, dice rolls come into play. You can always just let them use a skill every so often. There's just no pressure at all. But skills are very important. So what skills you have, open up your options. Let you pitch things. Know what your character. That's where your knowledge really is going to pour in from. And your local area. So it's more like common sense. Attributes build the foundation. Attributes represent your rabbit's natural, physical, and mental capabilities. They provide the foundation upon which many of your skills and abilities are built, helping define what your rabbit naturally excels at before training and experience begins to shape the character further. Movement is survival. Because rabbits survive through speed, cover, and positioning, movement is often just as important as attacking. Reaching a burrow, diving into a thick vegetation, or creating distance from a predator can completely change an encounter. Knowing when to move is often more valuable than deciding when to fight. I never played the Frog game one. I've only done the second edition. So I could only cover the first and second edition were the ones I touched. Mostly first edition I read. But then I did run the second one because I liked how they sort of pitched the way you do the Warren and the Adventurers. I like that better. But I've never read a single word from the third edition. I know it exists. It came out like I think 2019 or 2018, maybe. I think it's like Frog Games. Oh, and at least these definitely, it's easy. No lore dump. Combat is risky. Combat is fully supported by the rules, but it carries real danger. Rabbits are small and vulnerable, so even a single encounter can become life threatening. Players are encouraged to think carefully before entering a fight and consider alternatives whenever possible. Winning a battle doesn't always mean escaping without consequences. Injuries matter. Characters are not expected to absorb large amounts of punishment. Wounds have lasting effects. Recovery takes time, and even a successful fight may leave a rabbit in poor condition for future adventures. Every injury encourages players to weigh the risk before taking the action. So there's no magical healing. That's what it's saying to you. Like if you get too hurt, you're out of commission for doing a lot of things for a long time. Like you could be so hurt you're stuck at the war. Like what are you going to do with that character? Like you can't magically heal. So you might be there for a while. So consequences could be major. And what does that mean? What if you got to get out and get food and all this? So potentially, if you can't get up and move or you're too hurt, the idea is that could lead to death in the world of rabbits, right? Doesn't mean that you're going to want that to happen. You'll do everything to get around that or take risk. But still it just jumps the risk up more, right? Characters grow. So character improvement. Characters grow steadily through the experience they gain during play. Improvement is gradual rather than dramatic, fitting a game built around survival and learning instead of constantly increasing personal power. Advancement reflects the rabbit becoming wiser and more capable through experience. Burrows are part of the rules. Burrows are more than places to sleep between adventures. They provide shelter, protection, escape routes, and strategic advantages. Knowing how to use burrows effectively can make the difference between surviving an encounter and becoming another predator's meal. The game treats the rabbit's home as an important part of play rather than simply a location on the map. There's no magical healing, but I get what you're saying. Like it can definitely speed up the process. Herbs do help. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's correct. I should have mentioned that, but there's no like instant heal, right? But there is faster healing, definitely. And yes, a little bit of healing can come from Sarah. I know what you're talking about, but there's no cleric. There's no lay hands and jump right back into the dungeon. There usually wounds are bad, especially comparing to where you are. If you can even get back after getting damage right away, right? Damage is never good. Understand the natural world. Knowledge is one of the rabbit's greatest tools. Recognizing predators, reading the landscape, understanding animal behavior, and noticing signs of danger all contribute to survival. Paying attention to the environment is often just as important as any number on the character sheet. So we talked about communication. That's important. Many role-playing games ask... Sorry, give me a second. Hello. Okay. Not a problem. All right. Bye. Let's see here. Can defeat an enemy? Bunny Burrows often ask different questions. Can you cross an open ground without being seen? Can you discover a safer route home? Can you protect the worm without exposing everyone to unnecessary danger? The mechanics consistently support these kinds of challenges, reinforcing the game's focus on survival, awareness, and thoughtful decision making. Probably is. But guys, that's almost 4 hours. That is someone on the way over to see me. And I got to go help them with stuff. So I'm at the end of the Bunnies and Burrows coverage. I hope you rewind. Check out the first bit, the fluff. Check out the how to run it, character creation. Thank you, Bill, for being around. The herd bit at the end here was really important. I should have mentioned that, but I was trying to make the point of when you take damage, it could hold you up. So you want to avoid fighting for many reasons. Like fighting is negative. It is a resource drainer. It is consequences. And if you can go through almost an entire campaign run where you say, man, I might have maybe been in one fight or two fights where you kicked and got away. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great 4th of July. Philo, I actually think is an interesting game. I really do. I think if there's just ways of it being really interesting. Yes, Black Rose. I love y'all, and I'm going to be back here really quick. I'll say, because I know you're all saying goodbye, and I appreciate that. But I'll remind you all tomorrow what the stream is. I won't go through a whole list here because I got to run. But very quick, I'll mention the game tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm covering Legend of the 5 Rings. Okay. I love you all.